1, 2. There we go. Hopefully that should be working. I've forgotten to turn the microphones on once again. Good evening everyone, Mike here at Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. It is Saturday the 4th of January 2025. Hopefully you're all doing well. I've still got a little bit of a cold about me, so if I do have to excuse myself to go and cough up a lump or two, you'll excuse me, hopefully. And hopefully everything is working. You can hear me and or see me. Always the professional Mike. Yep. Thanks Mick Woods for the super chat. Getting in there early. Bless your heart. £10. Says, hi everybody, looking forward to this stream. Don't get too excited.
And apologies for not doing one on New Year's Eve.
Yeah, arguably I've had enough time to prepare, but I haven't had time to prepare. My brain, when you get to a certain age of your life and you get a cold, it does affect you in ways that you don't always expect. And I've got like the weirdest brain fog at the moment. Trying to put words together is hard. And formulating videos and answers to your questions may be difficult. So please do bear with me. I'm doing the best I can under the circumstances. So yeah, hopefully it's all good. Nick Barnes says, Mike's forgotten since last year how to... Lol, bless him. I know. It's terrible. It is terrible. But thank you, Nick, for the super chat. It is appreciated. So yeah, hopefully everyone's had a good Christmas and New Year and glad it's all over with. Although, for us here in the United Kingdom, we are expecting somewhat of a deluge of snow. And roughly about an hour ago, it started snowing here in the UK, in Bristol. As you can see, a little man's got his snow hat on, his Santa hat. And it's bloody freezing, it's 0 degrees, with the highs of 1.
Well, that's summer's day.
Weirdly, tomorrow it's supposed to be 11 degrees.
No, that's meant to be 13, isn't it?
Well, it's saying 11 there.
Oh, my thing's programmed different.
And a little bit of sunshine possibly on Tuesday. Who knows? Anyway. Retro News says it's already here in Yate and pitching. I did have a look outside and yeah, the road is pitching. There's a single trail of car tracks up and down our road. I'm theoretically, I say theoretically, I'm supposed to be going to work tomorrow in the shop. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm not too sure if we'll end up staying open particularly long, especially if the snow pitches a little bit more, because people probably won't be able to get to us. Although the shop is on a high street and it is normally gritted by the council gritter. The rhyming slang that it is. And yeah, who knows? We'll see what happens tomorrow.
He won't shut early.
Ian won't shut early. He's a tight arse. He really is terrible.
But the one with the keys lives quite far
Yeah,
away.
but the guy who's got the keys for the shop to open up, he lives in Clevedon, which, if you go from Clevedon to Downend, it's probably, I don't know, I want to say it's probably about 12 miles. 12 miles, that sound about right, Kath? Did you say more than that? Someone do a Google thing. How far is...
It's about 30.
It's not 30, because Weston-super-Mare is like 25,
Is
30.
there, though?
It's kind of on the way. It might be getting on for towards 15, maybe 20 miles. So if Retro News says more than that is about 20. I don't drive very often, so my ideal of scale and distance is severely jaded.
I went to Paul's wedding there.
That's true. So yeah, Retro News says it's about 20. Okay. Pick Us a Bite says Arc 580 without rebar hit performance too much. Yes. Today's stream we will be discussing, amongst other things, we'll be talking about the things which are coming up at CES 2025, things we're hoping for, things which we kind of speculate already. Obviously on the first day, there will be the keynote speeches from Intel first of all, then I believe it's Nvidia, then AMD. So Monday is going to be a slightly busy day. I'm not too sure what time it actually starts. If anyone knows what time it starts, I haven't even looked yet. I'm guessing it's going to be kind of like mid-morning where they are. So I'm guessing it's going to be kind of late afternoon, early evening here. I'm not too sure. And to be honest with you, oh, there, Raj D says 36 minutes, 22.2 miles via the M5.
So I was nearer than you.
Kath's nearer. She knows
Was
what's
I
going
12?
on. Yeah.
What did you say, 12?
Yeah.
I said 30.
Scott Gordon says, does not look like the storm is going to hit much of Wisconsin, but it's been dang cold. -17 Celsius right now. We don't get weather like that here in the UK. Very, very rarely. You might do up in towards the Highlands and Scotland, but in the kind of the, well, down south more so, we rarely get anything much below freezing. Sometimes it's like -2, -4. You get a very odd time when it's maybe -10 because of wind chill, but rarely it doesn't get that cold. Well, hello. Hopefully you're all wrapped up nice and warm wherever you are. I bet it's nice and warm in Australia. Pixelbyte says, for me, the Intel Arc B580 is the best value for money GPU. It kind of is and it kind of isn't. And that is why the thumbnail from the video is so solemn. Because I have my regrets for many reasons. The thing is, what is going on with Intel at the moment? I honestly don't know the answer, but we can certainly speculate what is going on. Intel have not had a particularly good run for arguably 2 years, maybe 3. And prior to that, they were kind of just fumbling along a little bit. So yeah, things aren't looking great for Intel. And they're with their keynote and them announcing the non-K processors on the Intel Core Ultra 200 series. Is anybody even interested? Like remotely? If you are interested, hit us up in that comment section and let us know, because I actually want to hear from you. Because I feel that Intel have dropped the ball significantly. And this is coming from somebody who has got best part of 3 Intel systems here. All of which I honestly do not know what I'm going to do with and whether or not I'm going to carry on using them. Is it time for me to make the switch? It might be. Yes, Kath.
Lost it now.
Oh, she's lost it now. I was talking for too long.
My arm's lost its feeling as well. 9 AM the 7th for general public.
9 AM. And 9 AM. So, was that UK time?
I assume not.
Wayne Taylor says 9 AM, 7th for general public. Okay,
Probably
so
too late.
that'll be 9 AM in America. And they are, what, 7 hours behind. So that's going to be... No, that can't be that time in the morning. I don't know. We'll have to have a look. Rick H says, was it a mistake hiring Pat? I have my own kind of opinions on that. I think there's a lot of things that are going wrong at Intel. Whether or not Pat is that problem, I don't know. It's a hard one to put. I don't think you can put this blame solely on any one person, because realistically, like most companies, even the CEOs, the CCOs, the chief engineers, realistically, they do have like some say, but ultimately it comes down to shareholders and the bean counters, as most of us are fully aware. So they have shareholders that they have to be beholden to. They are actually legally obliged to make a profit for the shareholders, if possible. So, yeah, that is part and parcel of why I think things have gone down the pan, because they're trying to please the shareholders, keep interest in the company, but then they're rushing out products which clearly, such as the B580, such as 13th and 14th gen, yeah, they just basically weren't ready for it, were they? And if you are one of the few people in the chat, which I'm going to guess, that there is not going to be a single person in the chat tonight who actually has a new Intel Core Ultra setup running either the 245, the 265 or the 285K. I would put a lot of money on it that there isn't going to be a single one of you. You may have seen one, you may have considered one, but whether or not you've actually bought one, I would strongly doubt it. And because people are losing interest and losing faith, and that is a terrible thing to be. A lot of what Intel are and where they are at the moment very much reminds me of the bulldozer era for AMD. But there was a significant difference there. At least with AMD, they had one thing going for them, and that was the fact that the motherboards were cheaper and the processors were significantly cheaper, because they knew they weren't competitive. Or at least in the majority of applications at the time, the design for the bulldozer processors was ahead of its time, and the software and the applications just wasn't optimized for it. which is where I feel Intel are at the moment. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. I will be interested to hear. Forever Game says, yes, every industry is dying under DEI and inflation. It's not going well, is it? AMD seem to be on the up and up. They seem to be doing all right. And obviously NVIDIA having the market share they do, and also the power of their AI processors, tensor cores, etc., for big business and for professional use. Really, they can't put a foot wrong in terms of the hardware. It's just the prices that we don't like, obviously. Although, coming out with some new graphics cards next week, technically next week, it's going to be interesting to see if they still rock an 8 gig card. It looks like there is going to be still the 5060 with 8 gigs of RAM, which I think personally is a mistake. But anyway, we will see what happens. But yeah, Dutch Jan says, at Intel the beam counters are in power. They do. Rick H says, I don't because of lack of money. I think that's the problem with a lot of it these days. Motherboards, processors have become ridiculously expensive. It's weird to think that graphics cards at the prices they are now are better than they were pretty much than the peak of the mining craze. If you just think about that for a minute, like in theory, the whole world is in somewhat of a downturn economically. Some would call it a depression. Most countries won't actually put a thing on it and say, yes, we are in a recession or a depression. But I think pretty much if you look at average earnings and you look at expenses, outgoings, you can see there's a lot which would say, yes, we are in a recession for sure. But they won't say that. So yeah, it's very strange. Viali100's in the chat, says thanks again Mike and Kath and Andy for the cooler. Yes, young Viali100, the winner for the CPU cooler, the Corsair cooler that Andy Archer so kindly donated. We drew the winner on the stream last time, and they were given 48 hours to respond. I actually gave them, I think, the best part of 4 days, and still absolutely nothing. Complete radio silence. And so we redrew the name again, and Viali's name came out of the hat. So Viali will be getting that sent out, hopefully on Monday or Tuesday, depending on what the weather's like and if we can get to the post office, but we'll try and do that. Or maybe get it collected, we'll see. The other winner did contact us basically the next morning and said, did I really win? It's like, yes, you did. So that's all been done and dusted. So they were the winner of the Amazon £30 gift card, and they were actually in, I think it was the Netherlands. So we basically sent them a PayPal payment for the equivalent of what £30 is in euros. So I was thinking like 35 euros or something. So yeah, that was all done and dusted. Wayne says, when's the 4080 giveaway? If only. I've been really racking my brains because of this whole Intel thing. I have been kind of thinking about what I want to do with my older Intel platform, because it's a real pain in the ass. And again, this is another thing where Intel and their partners have just become so complacent towards the customers, i.e. me and you, that they just really don't give a rat's ass about us anymore. It's all we are basically potential victims, I think. Now that sounds a bit harsh, and it probably is. Some companies probably do think about us once or twice. Like we do when we're walking over ants on the road. Oh, I just killed an ant. Oops.
I didn't see that ant that far away.
That's right, yeah. I think that's what companies think about us. So I've got a, well, some of you probably know this already. I've got the Intel Arc B580. I don't have any kind of desire to actually even install it. That's how bad things have gotten. And this is supposedly a tech channel, and I really don't want to install it because I kind of know, I say I kind of know. I've got an inkling of what it's going to give me. Now for the £259 that I paid, or £249 plus whatever it was postage, Arguably, you could say it's a reasonable deal. I don't think it's outstanding, and I am beginning to regret my purchase already. And I've not even taken it out of the box, hardly, only to show kind of you guys. So, yeah. And with obviously the videos which have come out recently, the last couple of days, or last couple of hours in fact, from both Hardware Unboxed and Hardware Canucks, or Canucks, whatever. There is a significant issue with driver overhead for the Intel cards. Now I think for a lot of people that's probably not groundbreaking news, and I know there's a couple of us on the Discord, obviously on the Discord, people do post stuff on there, put a link on there so you can do also. People do post things on there saying like tech news stuff which is going on, so we all kind of stay in the loop. And the fact that the Intel Arc B580 has a massive CPU overhead and doesn't run great on older CPUs, I personally don't think is news to anybody. Now I know that there have been those two channels that I mentioned just now which have made somewhat of a thing about it, and I do kind of understand their reasoning behind it. But having said that, Intel have been pretty upfront, and especially TAP, or Tom Peterson, he has been very vocal in saying that you have to have resizable bar enabled. Now that doesn't mean just enabled, that means enabled and supported, i.e. completely working, which some older CPUs and some of the motherboard combinations, although they'll say that resizable bar is enabled, potentially it might not be fully. So that is going to hamper performance. But it does say very clearly on the Intel box, on the base there, on the minimum system requirements. And it does specifically say that it will require a 3000 series AMD processor or a 10th gen Intel or newer. So that's kind of like, if you decide to install it on a system which is older than that, if you get shitty performance, what do you expect? Like, they've said this is the minimum system requirements. If you go ahead then and put it in something which is less than that, you're clearly not going to get the best results.
Otis.
I agree with Otis. Yeah,
Isn't it?
exactly. So, to some extent, I think the Hardware Unboxed and Hardware Canucks are being slightly disingenuous and getting somewhat on the hype train. I know it's YouTube and they have their websites as well, so they do have to generate leads, they do have to generate clicks, and they do have to generate titles which people will click on. It's about making money ultimately. But I do feel that they are somewhat over-egging the situation. They say, yes, this card may have been targeted, not necessarily by Intel, but targeted by other YouTube outlets or other tech outlets, that this, like for 250 quid, could be a potentially really good upgrade for an older system. The word older kind of is a little bit open. So it's hard to put it into a specific phrase on a website or on a thumbnail, whatever it is, like older, in brackets, star, exclamation mark. This means Intel 10th gen or newer, or AMD 3000 series. It's one of those things. So I'm not exactly like really upset and pissed off that, wow, this isn't going to work with my 2600, because I wouldn't expect to use it with that anyway, realistically. So, some people may, but then that's down to them to do their due diligence, watch reviews and listen to people's verdicts and not make that mistake, which hopefully people wouldn't anyway. Yes, Kath.
David Thompson, what is a resizable bar when it's at home?
What is a resizable bar? It's basically the way that the processor can directly communicate with the graphics card on a very low kind of level, and I think it's only like literally like 120 megabytes or something, but there's certain instructions that it can send the graphics card kind of in advance of the payload of the graphics textures and stuff, and say, look, this is what's coming towards you, get ready. And it's like almost like a pipeline readying tool So yeah, it's addressing the graphics card in a smarter, quicker way than it would do normally via the PCI Express bus, I think. I'm not entirely sure how it works, but that's the general gist of it. That it uses a certain amount of memory to address the graphics card and kind of preemptively instruct it to do certain things, or at least prepare certain pipelines for certain tasks. Maybe I'm completely wrong. If anyone else wants to put that in the comments, let me know. They call it two different things. So it's resizable bar or smart access memory. I think smart access memory is the one that probably actually makes more sense in terms of a description of it. What's the matter, Candy? They've all come in here now because the lights are on. They're all excited.
Oh, it's snowing.
Arnold G says the PCI Express handles the VRAM better. I guess that's, yeah. That kind of makes sense. Hey Taskin, how you doing? So I'll look for the comments, see if anyone else is going to comment and let me know any better. So yeah, kind of that's where we're at. So I'm supposed to be doing a review on this. I honestly have not I've lost interest already. I haven't even fired it up to see if it works. And in actual fact, I've got two graphics cards which are like that, which I haven't fired up. I've also got the Palette 4070 Ti Super, which I managed to get a very, very good deal on. It's about £200 under its retail value, so I was kind of excited for that one at the time. But then I got my other graphics card deal, which some of you know about as well, the 4080. And so that one was like, that was going to be the one which was going to take the place of my existing system. And then I got the other one and it's like, oh crap, I've got two really excellent graphics cards. What a terrible place to be in when you've got two great graphics cards when there's about to be launched a new range of graphics cards.
Is it 12 gigabytes?
It is 12 gigabytes, correct, yes. Arnold G says above 4GB decoding also enable. Yeah, I think I always say that when I'm doing my BIOS tours. Always make sure that resizable bar and also above 4G decoding is enabled, because if you turn off 4G decoding, your graphics card can only use the first 4 gigabytes of RAM. Regardless of how much VRAM it's got, it cannot use physically any more than 4 gigabytes. There we go. Ruben Cordero is that, I believe. I think I've done that right. Thank you for speaking some sense. I thought I was the only one who saw the latest Intel B580 is broken on older systems as exaggerated. It is. Ultimately, like I said, I've said this to a few people, it's a slow news week at the moment. There isn't a lot to be excited about in the overall computer industry as such. There's no new fixes or patches or games or exciting equipment out. So we have to all be a little bit more analytical of what is going on around us. Now, to find that a graphics card doesn't perform as well as other graphics cards with certain processors, I guess in some ways it does highlight something, which is something which I've said for a very long time, is that benchmarks don't matter. Which I know a lot of people are going to be pissed off with that when I say it. And I think that's what sets me aside from the other kind of YouTube crowd that are the benchmarkers. They love all that stuff. The reality is, if you're doing reviews, a benchmark is only really valid like the day you've done it. Because there's so many other things that can go on. You've got Windows updates, you've got driver updates, you've got BIOS patches, all sorts of things, game engine changes, all that kind of stuff. So the benchmark's basically only good for that day. So if you're going back to look at benchmarks from years ago, it's basically irrelevant. Yes, Kath?
Can you just tell Raj that I've put the link to the Divoom in the chat?
Raj, the link for the Divoom is in the chat.
The thing on the wall, mate.
That thing. Oh, Candy, what are you doing? You lunatic. Cat's crazy. Back to benchmarking. Yeah, so benchmarking is, in my opinion, is like, it's important to some extent to give you some kind of really rough gauge of the expected performance with a certain hardware setup. And if you're comparing directly like with like, then it does make sense. And I can understand why people do it, because it's a good way again of these days, especially when graphics cards and processors and RAM sticks and SSDs, they're basically all the same. There's very little to choose between them. Even if you go from the very bottom of the range to the very top of the range, it's not a massive gap like it used to be. It's not like the next step up the tier is like 50% faster, or even in a lot of cases even 25% faster. So having benchmarks nowadays is slightly more important to give you that kind of overall impression. But years ago it was so easy, because you'd have a processor and you'd know that the next generation is going to be like twice as fast, or at least 50% faster, or maybe 3 times faster. It was a really easy thing to do, whereas now everything is such an incremental kind of 5% or 10% improvement in performance, or maybe the same performance but using less energy. So I do understand it, don't get me wrong, but I think there's a lot of emphasis put on benchmarks which doesn't need to be there. And especially in the case of the Intel Arc, like if you test this Intel Arc graphics card with a 9800X3D, clearly it's going to run very well. And the expectation would be, if you put in a lower end processor, like a 5600, which a lot of us have probably got, then you'd expect the performance to be slightly less. I don't think that's groundbreaking news. Now, I know on some other graphics cards, NVIDIA do have an overhead, AMD have less of an overhead, but the same does apply to them in some extent. Not as great as it does here, but then again, this is using a much different architecture. We're very used to the architecture for AMD, for NVIDIA, even though every kind of few years they have a new generational change, and it goes from RDNA to VGNA or whatever it is next, the next great thing. I think UDNA is the next one, but it's kind of, they're all based around a very similar kind of process or pipeline, digital pipeline. Intel isn't. They're not at that place yet. So to see the Intel Arc cards perform worse with worse CPUs, again, I don't think it's anything groundbreaking. But if you look at it in the kind of the isolation of, well, the other graphics cards don't do it like that. Well, okay, fair enough. Maybe they don't. But is that the end of the world? I don't think it is. Intel have got a long way to go. The drivers are still kind of a little bit hit and miss, and we still see some game titles with performance levels which are unexpected and should be better. But again, it's a relatively new architecture on a relatively new product with a company which is struggling to find its rudder. It's just basically drifting around in the ocean out there, not really knowing where it's going or who's at the helm. And it's kind of, the engineers are just making their way through, which I think is commendable, the fact they're still actually trying. There's a lot of people who have just said, right, I can see that the ship is starting to sink, let's get out of here. That doesn't seem to be the case at the moment. But you never know. If things get much worse, which potentially they will, yeah, Intel have a very rocky road ahead of them, which is a real shame. And it would be lovely to say that Intel graphics cards, yes, well, they've got their problems, but it's okay, because on the other side of the fence, we've got the Intel processors, which are rock solid and stable. Not so much. For those of you wondering, this here is my 14700K, brand spanking new, never been opened.
How much did you pay for it, the Intel, I'm assuming?
$249 paid for that one, if anyone's asking. This I purchased from, I think it was CCL on one of their lightning deals, for £199. And the first one I had failed pretty miserably. And it got to the point where I couldn't actually even install Windows. I would start installing Windows 11 and it would crash at about 30% or something. Various different sticks of RAM, 2 different motherboards, various different coolers, lots of different things used. So Intel have sent me a brand new, shiny, unopened 14700K. And again, even though I've been ill, granted, this is still sealed in a box, because I honestly just don't care. I really don't. I've lost interest. My system is working. It's got a 13900K.
Should we do a cat channel?
We should do a catch on, it'll be easier. So yeah, that is kind of, it's just not great news, is it? Intel are not doing well. The products are somewhat lackluster, and when they're not lackluster, they're basically broken. And it does appear, as much as I hate to say it, but the new Intel Core Ultra 200 series also seems to be broken. And it doesn't appear that there is a fix, although there have been some inklings that during Intel's keynote speech at CES, there will be an announcement and a new BIOS and Windows updates, which will rectify, hopefully, some of the issues that the Core Ultra 200 series have been facing. So that would be nice if it works, because Intel need a break right now. They're still ridiculously expensive, but if they can fix the problems, they can gain some performance, and they'll be releasing the new B860 motherboards. That might make it a slightly more, well, I wouldn't say attractive, but a possibly more appealing platform to be actually working on. And a super chat from Matthew Day. Thank you very much for your £1. Much appreciated. I've not been reading any of your comments, sorry. I've been really concentrating on trying to get words out of my mouth. It's hard.
Me.
And I have to cough. Let me see if my microphone mute button works. Where have I even put it? Oh, there it is. Did that work? Are we still good? Look at that. We've got 165 viewers at the moment. Thank you all for joining us on this stream. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. Don't forget to hit subscribe, chime. You never know, you might like this kind of stuff. It's generally okay. Tonight's stream's pretty sucky, but I'm trying to talk some truth tonight. That's what we're trying to do. I know I've been somewhat of an advocate of Intel platforms. I use an Intel platform for my video editing PC. The 13900K it's been very good. On a Z790 motherboard, it's been pretty good. But I do keep on looking at it, and I'm looking at all the problems and looking at resale value, and I'm thinking to myself, I should switch to an AMD platform. I really should. Like, if I create any Intel content, it's literally bomb, it tanks. And I'm surprised actually to see so many of you on the stream tonight. I really am, because I was thinking if I put an Intel graphics card on the stream title, people are going to be like, oh, not interested. But it appears that some of you clearly are. So I do thank you for that. Matthew Day says there's some Play Store balance expiring. Bless you. Taskin says Intel are in the naughty list. They are.
You got Captain.
Firestorm says I got Intel 12700K. Going to AMD next upgrade.
Alright, I've got them in the Discord.
Alright, Cap's putting some questions in the Discord. So Raj D is gifted 5 Mics Unboxing reviews and how-to memberships. Thank you, Raj D. You are a superstar. So that is going to be for Benny Hill. I think Benny Hill was gifted one last time. Nibber, Just Giver EHD1, Thomas Stendhal, and Jason Ty, or Tyo. If I've butchered any of your names, I apologise, but also remember I'm English. We don't read other languages because we're English. It's a typical English thing, actually. A lot of English people will, well, we're well known for it, go anywhere in the world that countries don't speak English, and all we'll do is, rather than try and speak the native language, we'll just speak English, but speak it louder. Apparently that works. I don't think it does. Whereas other countries are excellent. You go to another country, and even if it's not their native language, they will try and speak English. It's fantastic. It's almost like it's a semi-universal language. At least, not here it isn't anyway. Aletta says, we're here because we know how easy it is to get Mike to talk about something else. This is true. This is true. User 457 says, do you do Scottish? I don't. I could imitate Scottish, but I won't. I think I've got too much congestion going on to do that.
And you can't understand it to actually even imitate it, to be fair.
If I had some proclaimers going in the background, it'd be easy because I could just sing along. But I don't.
But the man who did our driver was Scottish, and he dug it all up. It was all muddy, and he lost his mobile phone. And he was asking you if you could ring it, but you had no idea what he was trying to say to you, did you?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a Glaswegian. He did our driveway, and he buried his phone underneath some of the topsoil. And he was trying to get me to ring his phone so he could hear it ringing underneath the rubble.
Yeah.
And he was talking to me and saying words, and they were kind of, some of them were going in, but I didn't put them in any kind of logical order. And I was like, oh yeah, just smiling as you do politely. And Kath's like, well, go on then. It's like, go on what? I don't even know what the fuck he's saying. I have no idea what he's saying. I'm just smiling politely. He could have been speaking Swahili or something. I don't know. I didn't understand a word.
But we did find the phone.
Eventually, I think we got there by...
I get locked out with no shoes on and it was time to pick the kids up.
I think we got there by sign language, sort of like...
No, I translated. But I think I got locked out, didn't I? I had to go and get the kids from school and I had no shoes on.
Anyway, there we go. So, yeah, Intel graphics cards and Intel in general, it's a real shame. I always like to support the underdog. It's just in my nature to do so. But I'm really struggling with it right now. Very, very hard work. Also, I've got my Intel 245K system upstairs, which we built in a stream a few weeks back. And literally since I did that, I haven't touched it. It's been in the box. Yes, again, I've been ill. It's been Christmas, etc., etc. But that was basically waiting for this Intel card to come in. And I want to put that into that new system, and to do some testing to see what it's actually like and see what you can get out of an entry-level Intel Core Ultra 200 series system, which is still phenomenally expensive. And I still don't think the 245K is reduced in price. I'm going to have a look. Feel free to have a look for yourself as well.
Andy Arc says you have that 0 GPU too.
The what, 0?
GPU 2. I don't know. Doesn't mean nothing to me.
Doesn't mean nothing to me.
Andy Archer.
Andy Archer.
At the bottom. He's written it.
What? Where?
Written, you have that 0 GPU too.
0? What's a 0 GPU? Hi, Andy.
I thought it means something to you.
Ah, the one I wanted the adapter for. Yeah. Oh, God. Don't get me ranting on this. I'm pissed right off with this. This was an expensive investment.
Was Andy talking Scottish then? Isn't he?
Andy was talking Scottish at me.
In text.
I really want to do some Scottish accents now, but I can't do it because I'm not visualising it. There'll be a word. When you do accents, there's a word you need to start off with to kind of get into the flow of it. And once you've got that word and you know what that word is, you can then you can go on to it. Like if you're doing Geordie or something, you can say something like, I think marshmallow, or day is quite a good one. Or Biker Grove, that sort of thing. You say that and you can get into it. But for Scottish, I'm trying to think of what the word is I would edge into. No, okay, go on. Right, yeah, my previous platform for my video editing system was based around this. So this is Asus Z790 BTF Wi-Fi. So BTF being back to front, or I was going to use some profanities there, but I won't do because this is a family show. Thank you very much, Jason Woods, for breaking up that with a super chat. £5, thank you very much. It says party, party, party. Thank you, Jason. Much appreciated. Oh, we broke it. Zero Defect says okay, or I am blue. I'm not going to go there. Right. Alongside this, I have this, which is a phenomenally nice video card. GeForce RTX 4070 Ti Super. This thing is a freaking beast. It's overclocked. It's very quiet. It looks stunning. But it's a BTF one. Now, when this all come out, Asus, bless them, they promised, or didn't promise, but they showed at CES this time last year, in fact, almost exactly a year. They showed a BTF model, I think it was the 4090 as well they showed, or 4080, in some little PC where there was an external connector. So the BTF setup is, with this, there's like almost like an additional PCI Express tab which goes into the motherboard, which you can't really see at all, can you? You can see it on there. So there's a little tab there, and that is basically where you get your graphics power, rather than being a traditional plug-in. So what I wanted was an adapter, which they showed, which goes on there, so you can use this graphics card in a motherboard which doesn't have BTF. Which makes sense, because obviously, being that Asus probably make, I think, 3 motherboards with BTF, and there's about 3 graphics cards with BTF connectors on, it's kind of limiting. So essentially, I can either use this together or not. It's kind of, that's it, with my current setup I've got here. And if I wanted to, I could put another graphics card in here, but I don't want to do that. I want to use this graphics card, but I want the BTF adapter, which I cannot find anywhere. It's really, really frustrating. So, anyway, I'm in a very privileged position right now that I've got a lot of graphics cards that I've got access to, which I can use. So don't get me wrong, I understand that, and I'm very, very aware of my current level of privilege. So if any of you are thinking out there, oh, bloody YouTuber of all these graphics cards, first world problems, I agree. I agree entirely. But when it comes down to you're completely scuppered on your plans because of one little adapter, which the company have shown exists and has been in the wild, but you cannot buy. It's just infuriating. And it makes you think, like, I like to get involved with new products when they come out, especially if I think it's a good idea. Hence why I like the BTF system. It's great. When you build a system, it looks so clean. It's so easy to do cable management at the back of the system, because it's a wonderful setup. It honestly is. But if you're then spending a ridiculous amount of money on a platform that, if, say for instance, in my instance, if this motherboard dies, I can't use my graphics card at all. That just seems ridiculous. I know it's the way the world is, but it makes it worse, the fact that if I hadn't seen that adapter, I probably wouldn't have bought this. I was kind of thinking in the back of my mind, yeah, it's fine, because if anything goes wrong, I'll get one of those adapters when they come out, and yeah, it's great. I did think to myself at the beginning, having a BTF adapter is a bad idea. If there isn't a way you can adapt it. But it seems there is. So, anyway. So this is my platform that I want to be able to use. Thank you for a super chat as well from Danny QFG. What's he saying? Upgrading from my i5 4690K GTX 970 this year. How fun. I think you're going to enjoy your upgrade. You didn't say what you're upgrading to, but what are you getting? Hopefully it's something very cool. And thank you so much for your kind donation. It is appreciated. Zero Defect says, Asus have done you dirty. Well, not just me, but any other gullible fools. They've taken that word out of the dictionary, by the way. Anyone else who bought into this platform thinking, yes, it's pretty cool. And if anything goes wrong, it's not the end of the world. But it kind of is the end of the world, because if anything does go wrong, I'm screwed. And it's not like if I get any intermittent problems, I can just say, oh, no, I'll just take the graphics card out and I'll put it into another system. Because I can't. Oh, it's so annoying. Like, this is the best part of, well, when it came out, it was probably about an 800, 900 quid graphics card, which is a lot of money. Especially when it doesn't work on anything other than this board at present. Very upsetting. I don't mind investing money into stuff if I can use it in various platforms. That's the kind of thing that we expect from computers in general.
Danny says, no idea just yet.
Okay, no worries. Anyway, so yeah, this was my platform. Liked it a lot. I then got the 14700K, and yeah, that's when it all started to go wrong. So that's when I had to change my entire platform to work out where the problem was coming from. And now I'm on a MSI motherboard, a normal MSI motherboard, a different graphics card, and my 13900K, because the 14900K was faulty. So yeah, I should have gone with AMD. Things would have been so much easier, because AMD don't have a full-size ATX Project Zero motherboard. So that would have been one thing which I didn't have to worry about. And MSI Project Zero motherboards that do exist in the full size don't have the BTF type connector for the graphics card, only for the motherboard. So I would have been okay there as well.
Wayne, still?
I know.
Don't, you've forgotten that already.
Wayne Taylor says, is that a little plastic adapter with a PCI slot and power next to it? Yes. I got one from Asus for repairs, but never knew what it was for. Wayne, please sell me it, or tell me the part number so I can order one. Or order me one and I'll pay the shipping. Please. I'm begging you. I will. I'll get down. Hang on. Visually, this probably won't make much sense, but I am actually on my knees now and I am begging you. Please, can you either get in contact with Asus and try and get me one, please? Or I'll pay you for it, or whatever. Just, I don't care how much it... Oh, actually, I do care how much it costs. I just need one. Help me out.
Right, you're going to check Discord as well.
Excuse me, I coughed. I didn't press the button. That's on me. I was going to check something just now, but I won't do that. Let's go and have a look on Discord, because Kath says I've got to check Discord.
Well, it's been since the beginning of the stream.
Okay. Markovsky, anyone know if the 12th gen is any good? The last Intel I had was 10th gen, and that was fine, but considering a Minas Forum MS01, but getting the jitters after all the Intel bad publicity. 12th gen is generally fine. It runs a little bit hot, but other than that, in terms of its stability, yeah, no worries at all. It's when they took 12th gen and overclocked the shit out of it, i.e. 13th and 14th gen, that's when things started to go badly wrong. And they kind of moved a few things around on the die, which was a bad idea. So yeah, 12th gen's absolutely fine. Although, having said that, if you want a slightly more trouble-free life, I would be tempted. Go with the AMD platform. I hate to say it, but I think, especially for a mini PC, yeah, I don't know. 12th gen does idle very, very low wattage. So if it's a PC which is mostly just going to be left on idle, then potentially you'll see some pretty nice power savings with 12th gen. Because that's the big trouble with AM4 and even AM5 at the moment. All of the processors idle at like 30, 40 watts, if not more, which isn't great. Especially when you've got things like the monster, like my 13900K, I can get that idling just on a Windows desktop, around about 6 to 10 watts, which is great, because if you're not using your PC, or you've got maybe, I don't know, Chrome open or something, you don't want your PC blazing away like watts and watts of power. If you think of it in reality, like, would you go around your home and turn on your kitchen light, your hallway light, your landing light, your living room light, and your bedroom lights, and just leave them on, even though you're not in any of those rooms?
You used to.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
Kath says I used to. I don't, honestly. And even if they're energy savers, they're all going to be about 8 watts each. So you're looking at leaving like 5 lights on in your house, which you wouldn't normally do. It doesn't make sense to do it. So, good old Intel. They do have some plus points, and the very, very low idle times, or the very low idle wattage is something for me I find very important, because I'm not using my PC as a workhorse all day long. And to be honest with you, most of the time I'm using it essentially as a browser. So I don't need to be burning through all that wattage all day. And especially if I've got multiple PCs, like my PC, Kath's PC, the stream PC, if they're just left on, which potentially they might be, I'd much rather them using, I don't know, like 30 watts in total between them, rather than like 150 watts. It all mounts up. I know it's not a lot, and we're in a position where obviously in the UK energy prices are pretty rough. And if you're in Germany or in some of the European Union countries, they're even worse. I know for the people in America, energy prices, although pretty bad for what you're used to, still extremely low comparatively to what we're experiencing. So I know there's going to be some difference of opinion there, but if you're certainly in the UK or in the European Union and some other countries, obviously, you will be paying way over the odds for your electricity. So saving a little bit where you can does make a lot of sense. And especially if it's like a PC, which is on, I don't know, 8, 10, 12 hours a day, it all racks up eventually. Anyway, hopefully that's answered your question, Mark. Next one is Captain Whelp is asking, Mike's unboxing reviews and how to. Isn't the Arc B580 a great deal for creators who don't need 3D graphics but media coders and decoders? Certainly, yeah. It's for content creators or even people who are kind of somewhere in between. That maybe you're not a content creator as such, but you watch a lot of videos. Maybe you re-encode videos, whatever. Yeah, it's a fantastic card for that. And again, Intel, the things they do well, they do really well. So low idle on the processor, media engine on the Intel cards is phenomenal. It really is absolutely phenomenal. So give them their due. If you're not using this card as a 100% gaming card, it is actually pretty damn good. But if you're looking at it with the eyes of like, you're someone who just turns on your PC a couple of hours when you get home from work, you play some games, you go to bed, there might be other options which are better. But if you're doing things like video work, even just watching things like YouTube videos or AV1 videos, whatever, it's a good choice. And it's about the right money. Jason Woods says, is Bob okay? We honestly don't know. He left the Discord this week. There was a thing in the moderator thing saying that he's left. No communication whatsoever. Yeah, I have no idea. If anyone knows what's going on with Ugly Bob, please do let us know, because we are actually quite worried. You never know what's going on these days, so yeah. Candy, oh, is that Dave? Dave is worried also. Forever Games is asking, it is stated by Asus the BTF adapter is for technical work situations only, like tests and repair. Now that's interesting, because if you look up the BTF adapter, there are multiple videos at CES where it shows it being used on just a regular, well not a regular, but like an open form factor PC.
Eve tail.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a shame, because it should be one of those things which is available. Anyway, hopefully that answers your question there, Forever Games. I'll minimise that and let's go back to see what you guys are saying. Forever Games, yeah, the public cannot buy one. That sucks. User 457 says, suppose the real question is, does it spin up when needed? I don't know what that is in relation to, sorry. Markovsky says, so it will be on pretty much 24/7, so you can remotely access it. Right, yeah, you might be better off with Intel for the lower power usage. It might use more power when it's under load, but certainly if it's just left idle pretty much most of the time, yeah, I would go with the Intel box. Or, obviously, as with anything, do your own due diligence and just see what the various boxes are like. Hopefully, if you're looking at reviews of mini PCs, you'll find people are taking a reading from the wall, which is obviously preferable, because then you know what's going on. Oi! Sorry, Flame is attacking Poppy.
He wasn't attacking there, they were playing.
Screeny Todd YT, do you live in a house where everyone leaves the lights in every room on? He's got a blushing face there, so yeah, I think that might be. In Finland, it's 7 to 9 cents per kilowatt hour, and very much in the EU. That's good, I think, isn't it? Isn't that good? I
have no idea. Doesn't matter what it is, does it really? You've got to pay it.
I need to find out now. Let's have a look. Electrical. UK kilowatt per hour. Yeah, that is really good. That's like a quarter of ours. If you're in like the Midlands or East Midlands or London, it's roughly between sort of 24 to 26 pence per kilowatt hour. So, well done, Finland. Hey, Dave, what are you doing? Freak. Oh, okay. Can I have my mouse back? Is that all right? I'm looking at some stuff going on there, but I can't see what they're saying, so I don't get it. Stellar says, has something happened with Intel? Yeah, they've basically fallen out of the tree that they were in and banged their heads severely on every single branch. And they have been slowly in decline for a long time. Arguably, some would say ever since probably the 4th gen. And, well, actually no, probably fair to say 8th gen. When you got to 8th gen, 9th gen, 10th, 11th, 12th, they were basically all the same processor, just more and more squeezed out of the same design, effectively. So they kind of lost their way back then. So that would have been, what, 8th gen? How many years ago was that? 10 years now? So they've been kind of coasting for 10 years with nothing really in the pipeline. Then they came out with the 13th and 14th gen, which were notoriously bad, had lots of issues. 12th gen was the first one which started running very, very hot and requiring lots and lots of power to get to those performance numbers. And Core Ultra was supposed to cure all that and kind of basically hasn't. So yeah, that has been Intel's CPU problem for a long time. On the graphics side, the Intel Arc, the A series, or Alchemist, when it first came out, it was new and exciting, and people kind of got on board, and it had some cool features and had some problems with drivers, which kind of like we expected to some extent. But we suspected that Battle Mage would be the answer to our prayers, and it kind of isn't. It's basically, well, I've not tested it yet, so I shouldn't be too harsh, but going by the performance numbers, it performs okay, but it's not like I said earlier in the stream. Years and years ago, between a generation of graphics cards, which normally would take a lot longer to come out, let's be fair, you would see 50%, 100%, maybe even 200% performance improvements. Whereas now we're seeing, I don't know, 10, 15, maybe 20% in some instances. We're not seeing those numbers. We've kind of got to a point where the hardware designers, and also, I suppose we should argue, the software builders or coders, they're getting lazy. So if more power is available to them, they'll just soak up that power with inefficient coding. So yeah, it's a kind of a chicken and egg scenario between the whole thing. But realistically, what it comes down to is the Battle Mage cards are marginally better than the A series, and the A series weren't particularly stellar. Granted, in some instances they were good value because we were just coming out of the kind of the COVID era and the graphics card shortages and all that kind of stuff. I'm getting a bit nervous. Pop is down here. What are you doing, Babs? You just coming out of the rain or the snow even? Yeah, so that is, Intel have basically been losing the plot. And things have been getting marginally better, arguably. Some would say worse, really. If you look at the amount of money invested to the amount of performance gained, it's probably very much a deficit. Because they're pouring hundreds and hundreds of thousands, if not billions of pounds into research and development, and basically getting nothing. Or very, very little. Rick H says, yeah, 14 plus nanometer SKUs. That is it. Aletta says, electric prices are 16.63 cents per kilowatt hour here in Ohio. Yeah, UK's not good. I think Germany is the worst. Ireland is pretty bad. The UK is pretty awful. And it's a weird thing. There's a lot of people that don't actually know this because of, obviously, people have died in those generations, don't know about it now because they haven't passed on the information. But electricity in the UK used to be free. Believe it or not, it was actually free. They would plumb in electricity to your house and you'd have free electricity. You did not pay for it. It was basically free. You paid for it for your taxes. So your, what do they call it? The council taxes or council rates or whatever. It was included as part of that. Then they started putting meters in so they could work out who's using what. Why would they want to do that? And then, oh, let's start charging for electricity because we can make a lot of money on that. Then, hey, let's privatize the electricity companies so they can make lots of money out of it. And we can sell the rights to those companies. Bastards. Anyway, let's move on.
But they're only agents, aren't they? The ones you pay.
Yeah.
Because it comes from the grid.
Jason Wood says, question, thoughts on curved gaming monitors? I honestly don't like them. I've had a couple and they made my eyes go funny. I think it's probably because I sit too close. Is there a cat down here still? No. Yeah, I got to the point because I spend a lot of time in front of the screen and I found that the kind of that curved thing, I would go outside and everything had a very slightly weird kind of convex look to it. And if I jumped from my monitor to Kath's monitor, which was a flat screen, it actually looked like it was convex. So it actually looked smaller on the edges than it did in the middle. So it was definitely doing something to my eyes. So I would say if you're using it close proximity for a long time, I would possibly avoid it. But it's up to you. They look cool though.
The disco light goes on.
Yeah. Thank you, user 457, for your £1 super chat. Much appreciated. There's no message there, just a super sticker. But thank you very much. Captain Welt says, free electricity in the UK must have been before Thatcher. Yeah, it would have been in the I think it was in the 50s. It was at the time where you could plug in, you had light fittings and you could interchange them. So you could plug in like your iron. You could just plug the iron into your light fitting in the living room. So you could do your ironing. It was around that sort of era. So
you had to do it before it got dark.
Yeah, you had to do it before it got dark. I'm sure that was, I'm sure that would have been the 60s, maybe the 70s. Might have been slightly before there. Oh great, and now Chrome crashes. You absolute bastard.
Family show, remember?
Bollocks. It's broken again. Why does Chrome do that? Right, I'm gonna close that and we're gonna pop out chats. And cancel that one. There we go. Oh, why has it gone there again? I hate YouTube. YouTube, if you're listening, I hate you. I could tell that Chrome was going to crash. I've noticed this actually. You can tell if Chrome's going to crash because your CPU fads will start spinning up a bit. So you can gradually hear them ramping up and then all of a sudden Chrome will crash. So there is definitely some weird shit going on with Chrome. Old Man Withers says, hey Mike, Katie and Mubsters. I called you Katie. She hates that.
I don't really care. You make more of a fuss of it, to be fair.
Oh dear. Right, where are we going?
It's probably autocorrect anyway, isn't it?
Gaming Master says, CES is coming then. Will we see new GPUs? Yes, we will. That is definitely going to be a thing. Stephen Anderson says, just paid for mine. Trust me, it's not free. No, it's not free now. It used to be.
Got more in Discord if you want to.
Wayne Taylor says, solar plus my 24 kilowatt battery, no power bills for 2 years plus. That's awesome. The thing is with solar, especially here in the UK, it's really expensive and we don't get a lot of sun. Let's be fair.
Even in summer.
Even in summer, we don't get a lot of sun because bloody...
Not for the last
I'm not going to say why, but yeah. Mist. It's possibly not going to repay itself for quite a while. So by the time you invested in it all, got your batteries, got your solar panels, got it installed, got yourself plumbed in and all that sort of stuff, it's probably going to take a good 5 to 7 years before it starts to pay for itself. At which point it's going to be looking at a new system anyway. So it's like, do you just pay your bills and just use less electricity, or get solar in? It's a difficult one. And at the moment we're at the kind of highest prices we've seen in a generation or two. So it's kind of like, well, the prices can only get better, surely. At which point then solar makes even less sense. Here in the UK. If you're in a nice sunny country, or you live in like Florida or something, or one of
our house is in the wrong direction.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons why you should get solar. Gaming Master 4386 says, by the way, Mike, love your set. Do you have a video related to making that setup? No. To be honest with you, now without being kind of self-devaluing or whatever, it mostly is just thrown together out of necessity. This room is literally our dining room. We ate our Christmas dinner at this table. Every single day, after I finish filming, or in between filming, everything gets packed away, and this just becomes a normal dining table. So the monitor there gets pushed to the wall. You can still use this as a normal table, and that's basically how it is. The wallpaper here is just wallpaper. It used to be white,
and it only goes to two.
Yeah,
it only goes to the old.
I've only done it on 2 walls, so because the camera is facing in this way, then only this wall and that wall are actually decorated like that. The other walls are just plain. Just lining paper with paint on.
The rest is white because we used to do projector reviews on
Yeah,
it.
we painted the chimney breast white for projector reviews, which we don't really do.
The other ones are very...
They're like olive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. Shelves, just simple shelves, nothing really exciting there. The only things I've added, which I do like really, are things like the Superman sign. I wasn't too sure about those when I got them, but I do kind of like them now. I got 3 of these, a Superman one, a Stormtrooper one, and a Batman one. And they were £5 each from geekstore.com, which have since gone into liquidation or whatever, so I don't think they exist anymore. And that was a sign which basically every YouTuber has. That was kind of like, you've got to have one of those. It's the thing. Stephen Anderson, thank you. He's gifted 5 Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How-To memberships. 1 to Pac-Man Dave Drone Adventures. 1 to Inspector X, 1 to Gerhard Lagerventrick. Wow, that was difficult. JD Can 82 and Thomas Wood. Thank you very much, Stephen Anderson. Much appreciated. Yeah, going back to the...
Sorry, can't get the lights work.
Going back to the rest of it, this is just an IKEA Lax shelf, a 4-bay one, which is just wall mounted. They do have the brackets included for wall mounting. I have put a wooden bar, like a bit of 2x2, underneath it, just to stop it from falling or sagging, just to support it, because obviously it's quite heavy. Inside here, camera equipment in there, streaming equipment in there, power supplies and cables in there, and basically all other junk is in there. But works well. Is like a little stand-up kind of desk to do filming, recording, streaming, etc. It's happy days. The tables are just IKEA's cheapo Lag Captain, I think they're called. They're £15 each they were for the 140mm by 60mm. Previously I had 60 by 120s, so I've got a little bit of extra. I've got 8 inches more. Woohoo! A whole 8 inches. You'd be amazed what you can do with 8 inches. But yeah, it has helped to widen out the desk a little bit. Yeah, that is kind of it. The rest of it is all just like stuff I just coupled together. Shelving is just normal shelving. They call that twin lock shelving. So it's like the twin hooks that go onto a rack. It's just cheap and cheerful stuff. But it gets the job done.
I think it'd be better with a cat climbing wall.
I think it might be. Alata says, YouTube hates me. They tried to block me from watching videos because my browser has a built-in ad blocker. The ad blocker thing is a very difficult thing. I see it slightly differently now. Being a YouTube content creator, I do understand obviously the value of the creator economy. Honey browser extensions aside. I deliberately don't use an ad blocker for the fact that I know that I watch a lot of YouTube on a daily basis, and even if it's a very small portion of that YouTuber's income, I would hope, even though I do skip ads, I do have them shown to me. So at least the content creators are getting something. I do get infuriated by it though, when I'm working in the shop, which is a car repair store, and someone comes in with like a key fob to be repaired, or a car with an unusual bulb. It's like, well, how the hell does that come out? So you do the usual thing, go to YouTube, and before you can even find out the information, even if it's like a 2-minute video, you get like ads, a couple of ads you've got to skip through. It is very frustrating. So I do understand why people do it. It does get in the way, but at the same time, nothing is free. So if you want to get information from a video, or you want to have entertainment from a video, there is payment required. Whether
Dan just said my data should be enough payment for them.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. That is basically what it comes down to. Nothing is free. Everything requires payment. And as soon as you kind of get your head around that, it all makes a lot of sense. Now, like, we give out our videos and you can watch them free of charge. We appreciate you watching the adverts and stuff like that and clicking on links if they're available and if they're relevant to you. But also at the same time, we understand your frustrations. But it's kind of like, if you guys go out to work, you expect to be paid. And content creators and things like that are no different. So, yeah. I don't use an ad blocker for that reason. Although I am very tempted to. Markovsky says, I had a dispute with a certain electrical company. I refused to pay and said they'll cut me off if I didn't pay. So I said, the day you cut me off, I'll have your meter removed and I'll put my own in. Yeah, there's a kind of like a, they say it's like an old wives' tale, but there's also some legality to it as well. That the only way they can legally charge you for electricity in the UK is via a meter reading. But there's something to do with the fact that if you have your own meter, they are not legally able to charge you. Even though you're still consuming electricity, you're not using their meter to consume your electricity. It's a very, very bizarre kind of weird loophole legal ease thing.
Well, you're only paying the supplier, not the supplier, the agent.
You're paying an agent, yeah.
And they don't come and change your meter when you change agents.
No.
So it's all coming from the same supply.
Yeah.
Anyway, Rashu says, where is William Bodie?
William Bodie has been around. He must be either busy or ill. He posted on a video earlier on, I think, was it today or yesterday? I'm not sure. I think it must have been yesterday. So he is about, he's okay, he's all good. He's been working through the holidays, so, yeah, I don't know. Bless him. Hopefully, if you're watching, hi, William Bodie. Right, so where we are. Old Man Withers says, my B580 has been solid so far. I'm glad to hear it. Actually, out of interest, Old Man Withers, what processor are you using yours with? Be interesting for a kind of a frame of reference. I'm guessing Old Man Withers is going to be an Intel 12th gen, I think. I vaguely remember having a discussion at some point, but I could be completely wrong. I often am. Dutch Jan says, I don't mind ads, but if I listen to music one evening and look at 20 songs and get 30 ads, I quickly get tired of it. I totally get you there. I do understand that very much. James Mercedes is nice.
He's been in all night.
Sorry, James. I haven't looked through the chat to see who's in, so my apologies for there. So anybody else got an Intel B580, and what processor are you running yours on? I'm actually genuinely interested to know. Personally, for me, I think if you're building a system now, like most of the videos that we do on YouTube are based around building relatively low budget PCs, gaming PCs, using the kind of the best hardware components you can for sensible money. So if I was going to do a recommendation for an Intel Arc B580 graphics card, it's a really strong chance I'm going to be pairing that with either probably a Ryzen 5600 or 5600X, which, as far as I can tell, still performs relatively good. I would actually like to see that, a 4060. I think they did test that actually on Hardware Unboxed. I don't think the difference was particularly stellar between the CPU overhead. The thing is, well, realistically, all of this last couple of days or last couple of weeks of kind of Intel bashing, in theory, if we cross our fingers, close our eyes, count to 3 and spin round 3 times, by the time that CES comes out and Intel do their keynotes, they may have announced, hopefully, all of the fixes to fix all of their problems. Now, I think the chances of that happening are very, very slim, and I would suggest you're probably better off buying some premium bonds or a lottery ticket. But I think we have to have some faith. Oh, I can't believe I'm even saying this. I think we have to have some faith in Intel to do it right. Yeah, I'm saying that to myself now, and it just doesn't sound right.
That's what I faith in government.
Yeah, it's. I want them to do well. I'd love to be able for them to turn around and say, yeah, we've worked out what the problem is with the new Core Ultra processors, and yeah, we know what the deal is. We fixed it in a software update and a BIOS update, and when you fire it back up next time after that, it will be on par with AMD's latest and greatest for the money. And I think that would be awesome. I don't think it's going to happen though. I really want it to happen, but yeah, being positive about something and also being realistic are two different things. Dutch Jan says, Mike, I think you're dreaming then. I know. Andy Archer says, newer drivers will help the B580. I hope they will. I hope it's not an inherent architectural flaw. Although, that's the thing. If it's by design that it works better with a better CPU, is that a failure? If it is by their design. If they come out and said, well, that's exactly how we expected it to work. We expect it to be faster with a faster CPU. Because for so many years now, there's been that disconnect between CPU bottleneck, GPU bottleneck. Very, very rarely do we ever consider that one would be affecting the other in such a dramatic fashion in certain games. And again, it comes down to the games that it has affected them most in is probably down to the way the game is coded. And again, this is a different architecture. It isn't an AMD graphics card. It isn't an NVIDIA graphics card. Although arguably, being that Tom Peterson came from NVIDIA, you would assume that some of that intellectual gadgetry and gizmos would have found its way into here by some way, shape or form, be it reverse engineered or whatever. Maybe it is. If you think about it, AMD has very few CPU overhead cycles on the driver. NVIDIA cards have more CPU overhead per cycle, and Intel ones seem to have even more overhead. So, being that Tom Peterson came from NVIDIA, and they had some CPU overhead, maybe, just maybe, in that kind of transitioning from NVIDIA to Intel, but without directly using the IP, maybe kind of rejigged it a bit. I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea how it's come to be. And actually, I don't even know how much influence Tom Peterson actually has on the Intel graphics card designs. As far as I know, like, don't get me wrong, I think he's a fantastic guy. He's extremely charismatic and he cares passionately about what he does. But, having said that, stepping a toe back into reality for a moment, he is an employee of a company that is designed to make money. His job title, he is the head of marketing, not marketing, technical liaison marketing. So he is basically the kind of the friendly face between Intel's design team and the public. So yeah, it's a difficult one. don't get me wrong, I've said this already before, I like Tom Peterson. I think he's a very passionate guy, and in his field he is very knowledgeable. But he does seem to have blown a rather considerable amount of smoke up our asses with Arc and Battlemage, promising lots, being very enthusiastic and spouting all this stuff about the awesome technology inside of these cards, when the reality has been pretty lackluster, let's be fair. So, I don't know. I don't know how to take it. Either he's very good at trying to put a positive spin on a mediocre product, or he is genuinely disappointed with the outcome, but hiding it very well. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Does anyone else like think the same way as me? Am I on my own in this? Is anything that I'm saying actually sound even reasonably logical? Because I get these things going around my head all the time, and I'm thinking, like, to me it makes sense, but to other people, they might think I've just been smoking weed for too long. I don't know. User 547 says, test the B580, it's much better than Arc. The thing is, it doesn't have to be better than Arc. It has to be better than Nvidia or AMD. It doesn't need to compete with itself, because that proves absolutely nothing. A letter there says, motto for most big businesses, money before people. Totally. They are. The clue is in the title. It's a business. They're not. It's not a library. It's not a charity. It's not a not for profit. Yeah, even charities make a lot of money these days.
Play their startups.
User 457 says 4060. We'll beat that. It doesn't though. That's the whole point. It was supposed to, but depending on what processor you use, if you use a slightly older processor, like a 5600 or a 3600, it doesn't beat a 4060. But if you put a 3800X3D in there, it can do. This is where the problem lies. This is why Intel are getting so much flack. Because all of the initial marketing came out with people testing, as they always have done, with the very latest processor to prevent there being a CPU bottleneck. But after people testing with slightly older processors, the things are flipped. So when people said, oh yeah, it's faster than the 4060 for less money, awesome. But if you put in a 5600 or a 3600, it isn't as good. So then you're thinking, well, should I have bought a 4060? I can understand where people's concerns are. I honestly can. Robert says, aren't the Arc and the B580 the same? Yes. Arc is literally the Arc of the products. So this will be all the way from Alchemist all the way through to Zanzibar, or whatever they're going to call it at the very end. Arc is the product name, the overarching product. It's like GeForce. But then you've got your Alchemist, which was the first version, the A series. You've got Battlemage, which is the B-class cards. These ones here, the B580, B570, etc. Celestial is going to be the next one. I'm not sure what the D one is going to be. I thought it was Druid or something, but it might be Druid. Not too sure. But anyway, yes, Arc is the kind of the product line, which is why it was a little bit of a mistake, I think, calling it the Arc A750 or the A770 or A380, and then calling these the Arc B580s. They should have called them the Battlemage B580, or yeah. Anyway, I digress. Hi Toad! Celestial and Druid, thank you. I thought it was. iRolfman says, imagine having a board with no resizable bar and upgrading from a 1660 to find it doesn't work with the board, then getting a board with rebar to find the CPU is worse too. That is part of why they have been pretty clear on the bottom of the box saying the minimum system requirements. I did cover this a little bit earlier, so for those of you that weren't around then, that is the kind of Intel's kind of not get a gel free card, because it isn't. It's not as black and white as that. They have said there are a minimum set of requirements to use this card. Now, I know a lot of people, when you've bought stuff in the past and it's had a minimum system requirements and your system's been less than that, and more times than not, it's just like a guideline. But with this, it is pretty much set in stone. So if you do not have a system which is a 3000 series AMD processor, which I think they made a mistake there, because there are some 3000 series, like the 3000G, the 3200G, 3400G, those are going to run like a bag of shit, this. Seriously. But I guess because the 3000 series are no longer in production at all, then they're kind of hedging their bets. And most people are going to be like 3600, 3700, 3800, etc., 3900. Yeah, so that or 11th gen Intel or higher, which will for sure have resizable bar. So yeah, realistically, if you're going to be buying one of these or planning to put one of these in the system, you have to be looking at a minimum, really, I would say, either like a 3800 or a 5600 is the kind of bare minimum you want to be looking at. Maybe a 10400, maybe 11400, around that sort of thing. If you're rocking a system with something older than that, don't bother. Don't get it. It really isn't. There's no point. There really isn't. You're better off getting... Honestly, at this point, you'd be better off getting a used RTX 3060 Ti, because those are still pretty quality cards. And in terms of game numbers, it'll be very, very similar, if not better. And arguably about 150 quid. So you'll probably save 100 quid. Yes, it's only got 8 gigs of RAM. This has got 12 gigs. Look, if you're at this end of the market and you're buying such a cheap graphics card, then... yeah, I don't know what to say. Dutch Jan says faster as a 4060, most of them. I've not heard anything more. It's a weird position to be in. It is a really weird position to be in. Is it still snowing?
Yeah.
Man, is it getting deep out? Sorry. Sorry, viewer. We are looking at snow.
Bunkers and scattering on the floor.
It feels a bit warmer already. Is it me or is it warmer?
I don't know. Go on, Oates.
It's 22.3 degrees Celsius in the Mike's Unboxing studio currently, with a humidity of only 57%. That's pretty good. User 457 says compromises have been made. They certainly have.
Stop staring at me, Dave.
Arnold says he'd rather buy a RX 7800 over a 4060 for RAM alone. Excuse me. Yeah, yeah, Markovsky says the 3700X was a banging chip. Wonder how that runs. I think the 3700X would be a really good one to pair it with, to be fair. Ruru2M, I don't know if I pronounced that right, but hopefully I have. It says, I think that the $250 price point is the telltale sign that this isn't a full product that compete with a 350 plus 4060 just yet. See, the thing is, here in the UK, there have been sporadic deals where the 4060 has been available for 230 quid, which actually makes it cheaper than the Arc. That is why I think in some places that it's actually a really tough sell. Because obviously, if you want reliability and you want the drivers and you want all the features, etc., 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 realistically, I know there's going to be some AMD haters, AMD fanboys out there are going to disagree, but the 4060 or the NVIDIA cards in general, they kind of got it all, haven't they? They got the better ray tracing, arguably got a better feature set driver-wise. I wouldn't say the drivers are necessarily better because they're not really that far ahead or behind of AMD. So drivers, I would say, is probably, there's a par thing. But feature set, I would say NVIDIA's got a very good feature set. Also, they've got 80% of the market So you've got that market strength, and also you've got the resale value. If you buy an Intel Arc graphics card, are you going to be able to resell it for anywhere near what you paid for it? Whereas if you look at the resale market for NVIDIA cards, as most of you know, you can still sell a GTX 1080, which by now is what, 8 years old, 9 years old, for about 100 quid. Which it came out at, I can't even remember how much they were when they came out, but they've been that sort of money for ages. Absolutely ages. You try selling an 8-year-old AMD card for like even remotely sensible money. You'd be looking what, RX 480. You try getting 100 quid for an RX 480 these days. Ain't gonna happen. Unless someone's smoking way too much of the funny stuff. So that is the other point. NVIDIA, market leader, better feature set. DLSS is obviously better than FSR in its current state. Things like the NVIDIA Studio, RTX obviously, some of the AI features. It is a better driver, or a better feature set, let's say. If you're not into ray tracing or upscaling or any of that stuff, then I guess that matters less. In which case an AMD card would probably suit the bill. It's a very tricky place to be. Retro New says, yeah, we have about 2 inches. Nice. Hopefully it's absolutely hammering down with snow and I don't have to go to work tomorrow. Sorry, I can't get out the front door. But Mike, your work is less than 6 minutes away by foot. Yeah.
But you should say, I don't actually hop.
Yeah, I don't know.
Why does Google think you hop to work? If you don't go to work, should we build an igloo?
I think it's going to be that much snow.
I did it with that much snow before.
Right, Nick Barnes is asking, daughter's PC is a B450 Ryzen 3600 with an RX 570 4GB. Would a used RX 5700 XT or 6600 give a big boost at 1080p? Yeah. I think you're probably better off with... actually, that's a tough one. The RX 5700 XT is arguably the more powerful card by quite a margin actually, but it is going to require quite a lot of extra juice. So you may require a new power supply, in which case that's another expenditure. The RX 6600 would be a noticeable boost over the RX 570 4GB. I would probably try and pick up a used one or a second-hand one rather than a new one. A used RX 5700 XT, you could actually tap up O'Reilly on the Discord, because I'm sure he's still got his 5700 XT, his gold edition, or like the Founders Edition one. No, sorry, the Anniversary Edition, the AMD Anniversary Edition. He has got that still, so you might want to part with that. Forever Games says, stop drinking the green Kool-Aid. I wish I was. You can't argue with the market share. Like, if NVIDIA cards weren't any good, there's no way on God's earth that they would have 80% of the market share. It wouldn't happen. There's obviously a reason why 80% of GPUs sold are NVIDIA. Like, if you argue that that isn't the case, then you're clearly deluded. And I don't know what to say to you. But I'm not drinking the green Kool-Aid. I don't want to buy an NVIDIA graphics card personally. I just want to buy whatever's good value for money and gets my job done. But you cannot argue with the stats. Like the Steam user survey is a prime example of there being basically hardly anything on there of AMD within the top 10 or 20, I think. And it's weird because AMD cards generally get better with age due to the kind of the fine wine drivers, which used to be a thing, which I think are less of a thing now, but still potentially you might get a little bit of a boost here and there. But that actually really annoys me when people say that, stop drinking the green Kool-Aid. like, if it was the other way around and I said AMD had 80% of the market share because they're better cards, or they are more feature-packed cards, or more people want to buy them, you'd be like, oh, stop drinking the red Kool-Aid. It's like, you can't argue with the statistics. Like, just because everybody's doing the same
Well,
thing...
it depends if the statistics have been fixed or not, to be fair.
It's nothing to do with that, is it? It's all about mind share. People, right, regardless of statistics, like...
But you just said you can't mess with statistics. I don't know anything about graphics cards.
Yeah, well, no,
Statistics
if you go on bulk numbers of graphics cards sold, you can't really lie about that, can you? You could do, but there's no point because it doesn't prove nothing, does it?
I'm only getting on the statistics phase.
Yeah. Rasher says, well done, Mike. I see you coughing into your sleeve. I see sickos constantly coughing into their hands, then handling merchandise, etc. No worries. There's our super chat from Dave. Thank you, Dave. £2 super chats. Happy New Year, mubbers. Happy New Year to yourself, sir. Bless your heart. Forever Games says, how much market share does the 40 series have? I don't know off the top of my head. I would imagine the 40 series has... I think was the most popular video card the 4060? Or was it the 3060? I can never remember the two. I don't know. But then if you say that, how much market share does the 40 series have? Then you'd have to say that, how much market share does the 7000 series have for AMD? And I would be hard pressed to think that there were more 7000 series cards sold by AMD than there were 4000 cards by Nvidia. I wish I could do the stats on that quickly, but it makes no difference, does it, really? And in fact, the stats would be slightly skewed anyway, because the 4090, the 4070 original, 4080 original, and the, what's the other one? One of the 4060s. They all got ceased production early because they moved on then to the supers and stuff. So I think the stats would be a little bit weird looking, but I would argue that Nvidia would win anyway. Arnold G says, I played Counter-Strike in 2002 with GeForce 2MX 232 megabyte. Oh. I remember those cards.
Careful.
The GeForce 2MX. That was a great card. Forever Games says 9% versus 6.9% and the landslide vanishes. I don't yeah, it still vanishes, but it's still a win, isn't it? And being that obviously the 40 series and the 7000 series they've all been poor sellers because we had that massive glut of sales during the COVID peak, and GPU sales have basically fallen off a cliff since then. Firephone, is the B580 a giveaway, Mike? No. I don't think so. I've got to actually try it first to see what it's like before I do anything with it. I'm not sure what I will do with it. It's I like to have matching systems. So kind of like if I'm doing an AMD build, I'll do like all AMD. So I'll do AMD graphics card, AMD motherboard, AMD processor, etc. For Intel, I would like to do an Intel setup. Maybe well, it'd be nice to see how that works. If Intel come out with the new Core Ultra series, the 200 series, the non-K versions, or basically the budget versions, if they can come out with something which is about I don't know, maybe 8 cores plus 4 efficiency, or maybe 16 cores, like 8. No, actually it won't be 8. It'll be less than that. Maybe a 6 core with 12 efficiency cores or something like that. And they do something like an i5, which is quite reasonable price, about £200-ish. I wouldn't mind doing a system on that with the new Intel B870, 860 chipset and an Intel card. And that would be a nice little setup, I think. Just have it all Intel. Again, another place where Intel falls off the cliff is drivers. Trying to set up an Intel system these days with all the right drivers is hard work. Now, even in the era of, you've got things like MSI Center where it does auto updates, and obviously Asus and others do the same sort of thing as well, and ASRock. But trying to get all the Intel drivers first time is bloody hard work. Whereas with AMD drivers are amazing. For the platform, for the chipset, for the graphics cards. It's just a really nice cohesive thing. You know, if you install an AMD setup, you just go to the AMD site, click on auto detect, it finds basically everything and installs it all. You might have to do the Wi-Fi drivers or something after, but other than that, it's bloody brilliant. But Intel have got a long way to go on that regard, unfortunately. There we go, Rash is coming in a super chat with 20 euros. Thank you very much. It says, my favourite saying is, forget the past, don't worry about the future, just enjoy the now. That is a very good thing to have. Yes, I agree. I struggle with it, but I do agree with the principle, definitely. Yeah. Forget the past. Don't worry about the future. Just enjoy the now. Sounds good to me. Arnold G says the Intel firmware update is part of a driver install, I believe. I don't know. There have been, I think the Intel management engine, or the ME engine, which is like a firmware thing, that's been done as part of a software update recently. Markovsky says, have you ever tried a creator board, Mike? There are some crackers around and the prices have come right down. I don't know what a creator board is, sorry. Is that like one of those things that you put like a Raspberry Pi on or something? I don't know what it is, sorry. You have to educate me. There's a weird cat in the window.
Oh, it's little flamey. You're not weird, are you, Flame? Get your head in, Bobs. You going out? Yeah.
Simon Clone said, hello from Radstock. Hello, Radstock. Is it snowing in Radstock? Radstock's not too far away from where we are. Probably about, well, actually, again, geography-wise, I'm rubbish. So I'm going to say Radstock is, what, 25 miles? How far is Radstock from Bristol? Someone find out. I have no idea. I would say it's about 25 miles.
Can't you ask Google? Thing.
I refuse to ask Siri anything because she's dumb.
That's in stereo.
Andy Archer says, correction, one must learn from the past. Yeah, that's actually quite good.
It's 12 miles.
Oh, 12 miles. Bejeebers.
You should have turned your answers around the wrong way.
Yeah, I did. See, geography. Depends where in Bristol you are now. If you're in North Bristol, it would be closer, I guess, because Radstock is going towards Gloucester, is it? I don't know. I don't leave the house often. Tough Enough says, hello Radstock from Bath. Barth.
We have been to Bath.
We have.
Even this year.
Well, there was.
No, we haven't. Not this year. Last year.
Simon says, it is, but it's turning to rain. It's 12 miles. Fair dues.
Careful.
Nick Barr says, Mike, what happened to the Meshroom D build? The Meshroom D build got disassembled, number Johnny 5, and the... I can't think what I did with the case, actually. I think I just got rid of the case. I sold it for some stupid amount of money. What are you looking at on the cut? I haven't, no, that's right, thanks. The motherboard is up on the shelf up there. The graphics, the processor is up over there somewhere. I need to figure out some of this stuff. It's not been good. I can't remember who had the case. That's really bothering me now.
Sorry, baby, you run out of food.
No, I've no idea. I think it was someone that I kind of promised it to. But I can't remember. I could be completely wrong. like I said, my brain is knackered. Oh, Radstock South. Okay. Well, we're North Bristol, so that would make it further.
We're not North Bristol, we're East.
Well, Northeast Bristol.
Filton's North.
Like I said, I'm not very good with the thing. Geography. Looking for the comments there, so... Oh, content creation motherboard. No, I've looked at the ProArt series from Asus for creation, if that's what you were referring to. Wolfman says, yeah, Creative Board is a motherboard designed for streaming like the ProArt. Yeah, I honestly, I do not... I think they've played a really clever game there, because if you look at the ProArt boards and look at the actual specs to them, there ain't any difference between them and the normal boards really, apart from possibly the configuration of the ports is a little bit different. But, like, if you're a content creator, not all content creators work in the same way. So, like, some might have loads of USB stuff connected, some might have none, because they use, like, SDI or something. So, yeah, I don't know. I think they've done a clever thing there. They've done a clever thing, because they've put themselves into a segment of the market which kind of doesn't really need to exist. It's kind of like the kind of illusion that if you are using a computer for a professional living, that you need a professional PC. Which, as we all know, it's just not a thing at all. Like, if you're working on like a CAD workstation, then yeah, possibly. But even then, you can do CAD on a laptop if you want to, or any PC. So, yeah, I don't know. David Arnold says 16.6 via A4. Thank you. It's closer. Let's have a look. Stephen Anderson says $179.99 for a new 6600 in the USA. I myself won't buy used. Oh, fair enough. So I was actually surprised when I started out this channel. There was a very different kind of landscape of PC component buyers. When I first started the channel, it was very much the kind of the YouTube demographic appeared to be people who liked kind of bargain hunting and scavenging, whereas now it seems that the majority like to buy new, like the vast majority, or at least to buy things which are somewhat modern. Let's say they don't necessarily have to be brand spanking new, but as long as they are kind of generationally quite advanced or quite new. It does seem there's quite a big kind of jump towards people wanting to buy new rather than old or older. Nick Barnes says, "Lol, Mike, what did I do? I done something else wrong." Someone's asked there, I think it was Steve actually, about Ryzen Master. A couple of people have asked me recently. Sorry, I was looking for these questions before I start that. Gaming Master, each chipset is for different users on what your needs are. I pick B550 chipset because I use a lot of USB 2 and still a few Type-C ones. That's complete nonsense. The chipsets are not based for users' needs at all. Chipsets are purely for pissing rights or bragging rights. Nothing else. Yes, you get more USBs possibly, but just because you've got more USBs, does that make you someone who is a creative or in somehow a professional? No, it just means you've got a lot of USB devices. You might have like 10 Stream Decks, and you might just use them all for, I don't know, bring up web pages. You don't necessarily mean you're a video designer, or you might have 6 different headsets that you use at the same time, or multiple keyboards and mice. The chipsets don't mean anything at all. I've been into many offices and buildings where there's professional people working on stuff, and they're using, it could be anything from a laptop up to like a high-end PC. It's very rare that a chipset makes any difference whatsoever to the performance of a PC. And in fact, you could argue if you wanted reliability and longevity, you'd actually go for one of the low-end chipsets and a non-overclockable processor, because anything which is running kind of overclocked or slightly over its normal specs potentially is going to break down quicker. So, yeah. If you look at most business PCs are like the bottom range of chipsets, because they know that realistically someone's going to be sat there with maybe a monitor, keyboard, mouse, maybe some speakers, and they're just going to be using spreadsheets all day or using a web browser all day because they don't need it. Now, if that's a professional PC, why would a gaming PC have more advanced features for gaming when gaming is not as important as business, you'd think? I don't know. I'm probably going off on a weird tangent there. But I wouldn't say that, like, you could argue then that the kind of, in terms of the AMD chipset, so like an A620 would be for an office PC, a B650 would be for a gaming PC, and a X870 would be for a professional machine. Which you could have kind of argued that, but it still doesn't make any sense at all, because you can still play games on all 3 platforms just as well. And in fact, they've done benchmarks where exactly the same components on the 3 different chipsets and the frames per second are basically identical all the way through. So there isn't a gaming chipset as such. Let's get that straight out of the way. And in terms of, again, professional work, one person's profession might be different from another's, so you can't really categorize people into those little things. Yeah, ordinary dude. I got a Z690 board just because it was a good deal, not for the extra features. I think that's where a lot of people are. User 457 says, with you, Mike, depends on the workload. It definitely does. Yeah, I suppose if you look at things like the Threadripper platform, then yeah. The Threadripper platform is for professional workstation use. So yeah, you could argue that that chipset is designed with a specific use case. But having said that, there have been people that have used Threadripper systems for playing games, and they've used Threadrippers just for browsing the internet and doing spreadsheets because they can afford to do it. Saying it's all cross-platform. A computer you can use to do basically anything you want to, as long as it's got the power to do it. The chipset doesn't really come into it. Rasher says, does a better chipset usually mean more layers or less shared lanes? Yes, that is one thing. A better chipset, or not necessarily a better chipset, but a better class of board. Because you can get, like in the Intel series, like the Z690s, there were some really cheap Z690 boards which were like flimsy as all hell, literally like flexible. But there's also some Z690 boards which are rock solid, like 10-layer PCB. So it's not really down to the chipset, it's more down to how that chipset is integrated into the specific class of motherboard. So yeah, so again, it's more motherboard they take a motherboard chipset and then they'll put it into a specific board which they think is going to appeal to a certain type of user. So say for instance with the B650, put a B650 into something like a Pro A board from MSI. It's a basic no frills board, but if you want to use it for gaming, you can do. If you want to use it for CAD work, you can do. But they're looking at a price point which is a little bit lower, so the chances are it's going to end up in some time of either like a work PC, office PC, maybe a light gaming PC. You put the same chipset into like a high-end board, like a Unify type thing, which is an absolutely insane thing. It's the same chipset, it's just on a better board. iWolfman says, ASRock Live Mixer is a content board, usually on sale because it's orange, so they don't always get it right. Yeah, that's again, the Live Mixer board, I don't get it. I really don't understand it. Again, much like the ProArt series. Like, why? And like, the Live Mixer, they make the jazziest motherboard that has ever been seen anywhere. But why? If it's for content creators, why would they want a jazzy motherboard? If you're a proper content creator, the chances are your video editing PC is nowhere near your set, so no one's ever going to see it. It makes no sense to me at all. Ruru2M says PCI lanes are limited to the CPU. The chipset can give you more PCI lanes. Yeah, so that is another thing. So yeah, your motherboard, depending on its class or chipset, may have more lanes than normal, but to some extent you are going to be limited to what the CPU can actually afford you. Mark Gaines got a question there, £10 super chat as well. Thank you very much. Mark says, Mike, will motherboard manufacturers be integrating the new HDMI 2.2 when it comes out? I would say definitely yes. Whether or not it will be something that they will try and do sooner rather than later, I would argue probably not, because most of the features of 2.2 are going to be like the high refresh rates or the extreme size monitor screens, which traditionally for onboard graphics are probably not so much of a priority. With AMD's new onboard graphics, which look to be absolutely amazing, the Strix Point, potentially that might give them some reason, especially on maybe smaller boards like ITX boards and mini ITX and ITX. They may well try to implement those sooner, but I honestly don't know if HDMI 2.2 ports themselves physically would have a cost increase in terms of actually implementing it. I don't think it necessarily would. I don't think there's actually any extra pins or anything. I think it's just well shielded. There might be additional grounding planes or additional grounding pins, much like they did years ago when they went from ATA33 to ATA66 or the UDMA series for IDE drives. You could basically use the same cable, but if you used the proper UDMA 66 cable, it had the additional grounding wire, so each pin was individually grounded again. So it kind of made the signal better. I think it went from 40 pin to 80 pin, kind of almost overnight. Or at least 80 cables. I think there were 40 pins, but 80 cables. I forget. It was a long time ago. Europa King says, I love godlike motherboard. Oh, where's that gone? It's jumped. Did I click on it? No, I didn't. Oh God, I've not been keeping up with this chat, have I? Right, I'll start from the bottom and I'll work back up. That's probably easier. Odin Dew says, I'm looking forward to some mini PCs with the Strix Halo chips. I'm pretty sure Strix Halo is going to be announced on Monday. I would be surprised if it isn't. Ruru2M, it would make more sense for GPU, not motherboard. Yeah, I think it will be brought into GPUs much sooner than it will be on motherboards. Nimrod says, with all the AI hype, I think major changes are coming. To some extent, I hope there is, because I think we need something to shake the market up. There's not really, like years ago, there was always like the killer application, which would be like, right, I need to buy this because of the application. Probably one of the most brilliant examples of that is probably the Nintendo Wii, because the motion sense controllers, or the motion controllers, the Wii sticks, the nunchucks, whatever, like they made no sense at all. But it was a new way to interact with games that basically anyone could do. So like if you're a human being and you're born and you've ever hit something with a stick or went to punch something or went to grab something, you could use the Nintendo Wii, or at least play games on it, because it was that intuitive. Like for tennis, you could hit things properly. For bowling, you could roll it. It made sense in terms of like a really, really easy way to integrate with a game system. So for that reason alone, like people from like the ages of like 3 up to kind of like 100 were using Nintendo Wiis. They even took Nintendo Wiis into old people's homes to get them to get some exercise. It was that much of a cultural phenomenon thing when it happened. And you get those every now and then. There's other apps, I guess, for the mobile phone market, things like social media. Like, if it wasn't for social media, do you think we would have smartphones now? I'm not so sure we would. But there are those applications which people will go out of their way. So, like with the iPhone, like the iPhone 2, I think it was, actually having a map with GPS on your phone was like, wow, this is like outrageous. Before, you'd have to buy yourself a separate GPS module that connected via serial port to your XDA or whatever it was, or O2 XDA. Those kind of things are things which are like real proper game changers. Things like the Voodoo graphics. People were used to just normal regular graphics. Then all of a sudden Voodoo 3D graphics come out. It's like, bloody hell. This is like being in an arcade. And in fact, some games were better than the arcades. It was very much one of those big shifts. And I think we need something like that again to kind of stimulate the market. I think really we need something like Half-Life 3. But I don't know whether Half-Life has now had its day. Although we look back on it fondly, it was a great game and still actually plays very well now. I think if Half-Life 3 came out now, because the market has changed and expectations have changed, it would have to be a completely new type of game in order to make it Half-Life 3. Because Half-Life 1 was absolutely game-changing. Half-Life 2, again, followed on from a very tried and tested means of communicating a story, which was really involving. Half-Life 2 was amazing. But Half-Life 3, if it came out now, they would need an entirely new game engine, possibly a new storyline, because, I don't know, hasn't Gordon Freeman kind of reached his end now, really? It's been too long between it. I think if they'd have updated it sooner, it would have been easier for them. I think now it's going to be hard for them to follow it up. I genuinely do. I think in some ways it would be better for them to not do Half-Life 3. Because the expectation level now is just way, way, way too high. Let me know what you think. Apparently there is Half-Life 3 game testing going on currently. But I don't know. Sub-Zero says hello. How you doing? Killer F says, do you have any kids? No. I had kids. They're adults now. I'm old. Cat in the front room. The smarter the technology, the dumber the people, says Dutch Jam. Yeah, I think that's probably right, actually. Rasher says AI killed Intel because of their lack of investment. I don't know if that is entirely true. It could be. I know Intel have fallen behind in terms of AI, but the reality, like, who uses AI on a regular basis? Intentionally, I mean. Not because it's built into something that you use and it's just there. Like, I use AI every day, because I upload a video to YouTube, and AI magically makes me Spanish or German or whatever. So if you've not seen this before, you can go to any of our videos, especially the newer ones, click on the settings tab, and you can change my language to any language you want, and it will have a very similar kind of speaking style, or kind of speed and speech, etc. So yeah, you could try that. But is it useful? Marginally. I guess it gets the channel seen by more countries and more viewers who don't speak English, so that's kind of nice. But I think most people, correct me if I'm wrong here, we've got a relatively kind of wide audience here, but do you watch channels which aren't in your native language if you don't speak that language that they are in? Because I can't imagine for the life of me watching a YouTuber in a foreign language unless like my life depended on it. Like say for instance there was a weird Huawei P20 phone or something and I had to take it apart and the only video was like in Italian or something. I would watch it with subtitles purely because I've got to watch it because I need to take this phone apart. But I don't think I would naturally subscribe or watch a channel which wasn't in my native language. It just doesn't make sense to me.
It's one of those weird named things like Ugly Bob would send you. You could hear how you actually pronounce it.
Yeah, possibly.
Other than that.
It's unlikely. Yeah, I don't think so. Charles Ballard says English or nothing. Rick H, nope. Europa King says yep.
Was it Candy? Where's it? Come here.
Ira Wolfman says only if it's a movie. YouTube no, anime in Japanese yes. Okay. Tech can translate everything today. It can do. Where did the subtitles come from? Yep, subtitles come from AI as well. Well, the thing is, AI is a really misused terminology these days for what a computer does or doesn't do. Like artificial intelligence. It isn't artificial intelligence. You're telling an AI processor, please look at this data and analyze it and then say it. Much like many years ago, where you'd have Microsoft Office or Microsoft Speak, I think it was, or Microsoft Speech, and you could type in a word, press enter, and it would say it. It's a very elaborate version of that. It's not artificial intelligence. If it was artificial intelligence, it would be truly amazing. But it isn't. It's basically a processor pretending to be an artificial intelligence. This is weird.
Bits, right?
Yeah. It's machine learning. Yeah. It's, yeah. Everything is machine learning if you think about it. Like you write a program of a short script. That is kind of effectively you're teaching the machine what to do with the data you've given it. The AI thing has just got way out of hand, way overhyped. RLG says AI to sense the dialect and slang and do proper context is my guess. Yeah, I'm sure that there is a... But then AI, isn't the YouTube algorithm AI? And that's been around since YouTube started.
Even our supermarket does their stock on with AI.
Yeah, our local supermarket, which is a co-op, actually uses AI to order the stock. And it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant because you go in there, especially in the summer, because the AI has ordered like 20,000 punnets of strawberries, which they're only going to get maybe 3,000 people through the door. So every day at the end of we go in there at like 6 o'clock and there'll be like stacks and stacks and stacks of strawberries basically being given away. So it's bloody great.
You don't like like strawberries, perhaps.
I don't like strawberries that much, to be
No,
honest
we
with you.
don't like strawberries.
If they were cheap, I would.
But the staff always say to us, don't they, like, how wrong it gets it.
Yeah. Yeah, the staff in there, they're doing their nut. Because like, you got like...
We got 6 pallets of this out the back
No,
months ago.
no toilet paper or till rolls, but they got an absolute ton of strawberries.
We have a 3D TV.
Yeah, we have got a 3D TV.
Nothing to play on it now.
There's lots of films which have been converted, which you can watch on YouTube. But it's still a pain in the ass. It still looks crap.
What do you mean looks crap?
Well, visually, like, it looks great, but the colours and everything look awful, don't they? Because you're watching it through tinted lenses, so it looks dull. You lose clarity.
You know what? That must have been 12 years ago. Because it's when Flame was born, because he had a little kitten on me, wasn't he? And I put the glasses on him. But they'd only fit one lens across his whole head. What's that Candy doing, Oops?
Dutch Jan says, I don't have a YouTube algorithm. You don't need to. Well, YouTube's got it for itself. She says, out of hand. Nobody saw that coming. Yeah. AI programs give you more ads. I hate the AI voiceover on YouTube. Yeah. I think it's good. It's clever. And if you're of a certain age group where you grew up in this sort of technology was one of the things you kind of dreamt about, it's kind of cool to see it happening, but to see it happening so badly is not great. So says Mike, when do you think GPU used prices will drop again? Because the used market is probably 20% more than it was back in November, December right now. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really paid much attention to the used market at all. I do dip my toe in every now and then on Facebook Marketplace and have a quick look, but there's rarely anything that I'm very much interested in. But I didn't realise it was that much more expensive. The thing is, like, inflation has gone up by 20%, realistically. Don't care what anyone says, it has. So
100% on George's Boost Bars.
People aren't necessarily earning 20% more, but they're selling things thinking they should get more. So until that kind of whole mindset changes, or the economy kind of starts to hopefully flatten out again, I don't know if it will. We've been caught in this cycle now where things are just getting more... Like, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if you looked at it, 2 years ago, it was $50,000 for a Bitcoin. Maybe 60. It's now $100,000 for a Bitcoin. And back then, 2 years ago, I was thinking, maybe I should get some Bitcoin. And I think, nah, it's a fad. But it just keeps on going up and up. Now, eventually, obviously, it's going to bust at some point. But it might not. Now, this isn't buying advice. I am not a financial advisor, so let's get that out of the way first of all. I am not suggesting that you go and plow all your money into Bitcoin, because I don't know what's going to happen. But looking at the trajectory of it, there's been dips, there's been bumps, but it just keeps on going up and up and up and up. Is it a good time to get on? Maybe it is. How long are you going to hold on to it? I guess if you hold on to it for a long enough time, it's going to hold its value, because there's so many people that have Bitcoin now. You probably won't see these big kind of big dips when people get a bit panicky, because I think people are now seeing like, well, it's not gone to zero. So if I hold on to it for long enough, then I'm probably not going to lose my money. So it's starting to gain that level of confidence, as are some of the other coins. So yeah, it's hard to say. I think a lot of things are turning out that way. Gold has gone the same way. Silver's gone the same way. Titanium. What's the stuff they put in catalytic converters? Can't think.
Elephant's farts.
Elephant's farts, that's the one. You know what I'm saying? So like everything's getting more expensive. So I don't know whether or not we'll see a drop in used GPU prices. We should in theory. But Platinum, thank you, whoever said that.
David has to go first. Ruru's second.
Got you. Well done. Also, I guess another thing as well, like Andy Archer saying there, import taxes. That is something else which potentially in a few weeks is going to hit. With the incoming American administration, I don't think the tariffs are going to be as bad as what people are saying. The tariffs have been in place during Trump's previous tenure. They actually remained in place through the majority of Biden's as well. And is it going to get much worse? I don't know. It might do. I don't think it will. I think it will just carry on that same kind of trajectory where there is that inflationary curve where every year everything gets like 10% more expensive. And that's going to have a knock-on effect and it'll just keep on going. So, yeah, who knows? I don't know. It's hard to say. In terms of graphics cards, normally when you get a new generation of graphics cards come out and they're launched and they're actually available on the shelves to buy, you do sometimes see a drop in older cards. But the traditional drop we're used to seeing is when there were performance gains to be had. So when you went from like the GTX 700 series to the 900 series, or from the 900 series to the 10 series. But after that, it kind of fell off a cliff in the 20 series. The 30 series was kind of not great. And obviously the 4000 series we've had where the prices just were absolutely astronomical. So people wanted to make money on their old cards so they could afford the new ones. So yeah, I don't know. And a long way of speaking about it, there's various ways you could look at it. Demographics, inflationary things, the glut in the market, the lack of interest in overall in computer hardware. There's so many different things which can kind of change the course of the prices. The reality is most people that are selling used graphics cards don't really have a clue. And they're just winging it. They're like, right, I paid 700 quid for it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, so I'll ask for 6. And it's like, well, it kind of doesn't really normally work like that. You normally do drop off a bit, but the thing is, there isn't that much on the market. People are prepared to use things like eBay with the pay in 3 installments type deal, so they don't have to do it all in one chunk. Maybe credit card sales, that sort of stuff. I don't know. It's a bizarre thing. I don't know. Stephen Allen says Trump is adding more tariffs. Some say 100% from China and 20% from everywhere else. It's going to be one of those things like Trump said that he'll put 100% tax or surcharge on electric vehicles from China. So if you buy electric vehicles from China, you're going to pay more for it. If you buy an electric vehicle that's made in the US, you should get a pretty good deal. So I don't think it's quite as bad as people are going to make out. It could be. I could be wrong. I don't think Trump wants to kill the economy. If anything, he wants to stimulate it. So if he stimulates the internal economy, he doesn't care about the rest of the world. Why should he? It doesn't matter. The rest of the world is not his concern. Moving on from that, super chat from Nick Wilson. Thank you very much for your £1. Much appreciated, Nick. Let's heart you up there. Thanks for watching and thanks for contributing. It's much appreciated. Greg M says, how many electric vehicles from China are sold in the USA though? Yeah, that's the thing. I have no idea. I would imagine it's going to be a lot less. Tony Rosas says hi.
He says, Rig won't post anymore. Discord.
What up?
Rig won't.
Oh yeah, Discord, yeah. If your PC won't start anymore, head over to the Discord. Put some information about there and we'll see what we can do to help. There's many things that can go wrong. iWolfman says, tariffs that affect the US affect the rest of the world more as the sellers increase the price outside the US so they don't have to increase the price in the US too much. Yeah. I think the trade wars will definitely be a thing, but I'm hoping it's going to be a good thing. Because ultimately, we do buy a lot of stuff from, obviously, Taiwan, via China, arguably. wouldn't it be nice if we could go back to how things used to be, like in the 80s and 70s, where you could buy stuff actually that was made in your own country, which clearly is going to be better for the economy, for your own country, and also, if we are to believe that there is an ecological disaster going on, and it's all caused by airplanes and ships spewing out all this crap, then...
That's cows now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, sorry, that's cows. Yeah, forget that. But would it be nice if you could actually buy an American-made processor, an American-made GPU, in your American-made PC? Wouldn't that be a cool thing? That was a good timing. Andy Archer with a super chat there, £20, says, good to see you feeling better, Mike. Thank you, mate. Much appreciated. I'm not 100%, as you can tell. I'm still a bit nasal on that, but we fight on.
We don't fight.
We don't fight. We just carry on.
Go along with it. It's our body's telling us a message.
David Underhill says, local farmers love the last Trump tariffs because we sold much more soybeans to China. And there you go. Someone else is a winner. Greg says, tariff costs are passed on to the customers. They are, but that is the thing. You as a customer, now I know this isn't going to be relevant to everybody, but as a customer, you have a choice who to give your money to. Now, granted, those choices may not be that wide-ranging, and sometimes you may not have a choice at all, in which case, what can I say? But it does give you a choice where you spend your money. So if something is going to cost more, you vote with your wallet, you buy from somewhere else. Now, that's a very simplistic way of doing it, but ultimately, it's going to be invigorating to local economies.
Especially if you use cash.
Possibly. Aletta says, electric vehicles are a really bad idea. I don't know many people, other than people that work in the industries, that think that electric vehicles are a good idea. It's a very weird thing. It's almost like we're being kind of brainwashed into wanting or aspiring to an EV. Now, many years ago, when the BMW i3 came out, which was a lovely looking car, I really wanted one, but they were stupid expensive, like supercar prices. But I really did like, was it the X3? It was a little dinky sports car. Absolutely nuts performance. Yeah, I wanted one of those. They looked cool. Not an i3. No, i8 I think it was.
I think it was an i7, wasn't it?
Or an i7. I'm not sure. But it was cool and had like gull wing doors and stuff. Mental car. But yeah, I kind of like the idea of it. But the reality is, like, obviously, for us here in the UK, we've had a very short, sharp shock about electricity, of like how expensive it is. And if you're in Germany, clearly you don't want an electric car. Or if you're in Ireland, you definitely don't want an electric car because the electricity prices are ridiculous.
And they don't work in the hot and they don't work in the cold.
And when it gets really cold, they don't work very well. When it gets really hot, they don't work very well. And things like air conditioning or heating obviously kills the battery. So if you're in a country where you need lots of AC or you need lots of heating, you're going to be limiting your range quite severely.
Plus, don't you have to have a subscription to be able to have that?
Sort of, yeah. You kind of lease the well, weirdly, I think if you buy a new car, EV, you lease the battery. I don't think you actually own the battery. I could be wrong on that, but initially they were leasing the batteries. But anyway, whatever. Nice one, Tony. Arnold G says, so many EV in China, catching fire is a thing. I think it's, yeah, because electronic vehicles or EVs, at least the modern versions of EVs, like we've had electronic vehicles for years, like the old-fashioned milk floats, which used to deliver milk in the early hours of the morning, were electric vehicles, very early electric vehicles, which had effing huge batteries, which were charged up, and they would do an entire milk round on this one battery.
They would be local milkmen back then.
Yeah.
They would go far.
But they were still like 6-7 hours driving around. And it was fine. But modern EVs, the technology kind of still isn't really there. Electronics are extremely complicated. The CAN bus system, which works in modern vehicles, is basically like years ago, if you had something which was with electricity, you'd have a battery, you'd have the component, you'd have a positive wire, you'd have a negative wire, and possibly you'd have some sort of relay and or a switch to engage that piece of equipment. Whereas modern CAN bus systems in vehicles is basically you have one wire, which is an intelligent wire, which goes around the entire system and taps into every little component on the way round. And they all talk to each other and they all know about each other. So if you get a problem with one, or one of them shorts out, there's a strong chance that you're going to short out the entire system. So it's kind of designed to fail, unfortunately, but it was designed to be an intelligent way of monitoring the vehicle's statistics and kind of engine monitoring. But it doesn't work particularly well. So that is why you get more vehicle fires now with modern EVs, because you've got extreme voltage, you've got extreme amperage, and you've got a ridiculously elaborate system all running around on these kind of massive cables. So it's basically designed to fail. But anyway, there you go. M3, no, was it an M3? i3? M5? I don't know what it was. I can't remember. Panagiotis Diamantis. Sorry if I butchered that. I have some questions about PC building. I want to make a new PC build. If you want to make a new PC, are you going to use Intel i5 or AM5? AM5, I think, is the... If you're building a new system, well, wait until after Monday in CES and see if Intel are going to release any information about their new processors and the fixes for the existing problems. That, I think, would be definitely worth listening to. If you're making any rush decisions, I would give it a few days at least. But certainly for me, if I was to be going out to the shops tomorrow to build a new PC, I would 100% be looking at either AM4 or AM5, unless if the Intel side of things was on a ridiculous offer which was too good to turn down, then yeah, obviously that makes a big change in your decision. But reality wise, yeah, AM5. With AM5, get yourself a nice cheap 7700 off of AliExpress for like 140 quid. Get yourself a decent motherboard, even a half decent one, like a B650 gaming Wi-Fi, MSI Gaming Plus Wi-Fi, whatever it is, for about 150 quid. Decent set of DDR for about 80 to 100 quid. You've got yourself a fantastic platform and it will last a long time. And you can start off with a small graphics card on there, or you could put in a 4090. It will be just as happy with a 7700 as it would be with some of the newer processors, because games are generally going to be more GPU dependent. David Thompson, make milk floats great again. I should get a t-shirt with that on there. Tony says he's going to drop his PC troubles into Discord tonight. Look forward to it. Let's have a look. I'm interested. We're still in first or second gen EV and people expect to be 100% without problems. How many years did it take for gas powered cars to be safe without exploding? No, that's it's not really kind of... The thing is, the government are, in most countries, are forcing a mandate so that you cannot sell a internal combustion engine vehicle after 2030, I believe it is now. So it's not like we're waiting for them to evolve to become a better vehicle. It's like we are being forcibly told we have to purchase an EV vehicle at a certain point in time, regardless. And that, to me, seems awfully draconian. They're like, you know me, I'm a very much a proponent of freedom of speech, freedom to do what you want to do with your life. And when people say, right, you cannot sell a certain specific type of vehicle and you cannot use that vehicle, or sorry, you cannot buy that vehicle after a certain point in time, it just seems a little bit bizarre. Like, if I want to use a combustion engine, why can't I use a combustion engine? Like, my one car is going to irrevocably change the entire planet.
Yeah, but
It's not. The amount of CO2 that the UK produces as part of the global average is like less than 1%. So, if it's less than 1% now, what are they trying to get it down to? Like, you can't get much lower than that, let's be fair. And then when you've got other countries which are producing significantly more than we are, and we are actively promoting their economy, it's like, is someone trying to think we're dumb? Do they think we cannot see what they're doing? Like, they're just basically trying to tax the bejesus out of us, and it's just another way of raking money out of us. It's rubbish. See you next time, David. Well done on the weight loss, by the way. Here's a good one. This is a question that only, well, no one can actually answer, but the answer is obvious, but it's not. So, why is the 7800X3D CPU 7 months ago cost €300, and now I see the CPU costs 600 to 700 euros? It's insane. In 7 months, the price has gone up €300. I am from Greece, sir. Right. The first thing to do is buy on AliExpress. But don't buy a 7800X3D. Buy a 7700 or a 7700X, or maybe even a 7900. You'll get them at a significantly cheaper price, and you'll be losing, I don't know, a few percent performance. But you'll be paying, I would argue, somewhere around maybe 150 to 180 euros. So a massive, massive saving, and still get very, very good gaming performance. The 7700 on AM5, I think, is genuinely the unsung hero of the platform. It's a very, very good processor. 8 cores, 16 threads. You can overclock them pretty well as well if you want to, but they run really nice and cool, really nice and quiet. Lots of gaming performance on single cores. Very good processor. I would strongly recommend one to anybody building a new PC, and I would strongly suggest that you do not buy it from Amazon, you do not buy it from eBay, you go over to AliExpress and get it for half the price, and just be a very happy person. Mark Berry says freedom of speech is an illusion. Yes, I would agree with that. 100%. I work on YouTube. I know what I can and can't say, to some extent. Luckily, we're a tiny channel, so we kind of go way, way under the radar.
What, when they're changing you to a different language and assessing everything you say?
Yeah, they changed me to a different language, and also look out for any words I said which may be naughty, naughty words.
That's what it's there for, really, I expect.
Yeah. Stephen Anderson says, yeah, that did not work well for King Louis XV. Tax the hell out of your people. Yeah. They'll learn. Right. Yeah, Arnold G makes a very valid point there. Another reason why the processor has become so expensive is because the previous incumbent, the 5800X3D, is no longer in production. So people are thinking, well, if I can't get one of those, which was the best on that platform really, I might as well go for the new platform. What they do forget is there's also the 5700X3D, which is also a cracking processor and can be had on AliExpress for very, very little money indeed. We did a video on it, which you're more than welcome to watch. It's quite an interesting one, actually. Firephone says plus VAT. Well, it depends what it is you're buying. If you spend under £135 on AliExpress, then VAT is charged by AliExpress at the time of purchase. If you purchase anything over £135, the onus is then on the seller to claim the VAT from you. If they do not do it at the time of purchase, potentially you may get clobbered with a sales tax when the item is delivered. Depending who delivers it, whether it be DPD, DHL, Royal Mail, Parcel Force, etc., potentially you might get the charge, potentially you might not. So you kind of are putting your life in your own hands a little bit there, a little bit risky. Ideally, wait for some deals to be on and wait until the processor is got a discount code and try and get it under £135, and that way you can pay the VAT up front and know that realistically you're still getting a fantastic deal because you've got 15-20% off. Scott Gordon says we had the same issue with the Ryzen 3 3300X. I bought early, then seen there were no more on the market. Yeah, they basically, they pretty much sold out at launch and never ever returned. That was a really, really weird time.
Excuse me.
Panogotius Demantius, you're asking lots of questions, so I think the best thing to do, I'll put the link for the Discord in the chat there. Join our Discord, you can ask as many questions as you like, and we will have a bit more time to go through individual bits and give you some more detailed information. It's hard to do in a stream because there's so many people asking so many questions, and as much as I would love to be able to give you the full attention, there's 130 people watching at the moment, so it's hard to spend too much time on it and actually explain the ins and outs of that, because the questions you've got there are actually quite good ones, but they are going to take a long time to explain. So it's probably best if we do it in a more controlled environment, let's say. Greg M says, I have a bone to pick with AliExpress, who retroactively changed the automatic refund period on choice items from 35 days to 60 or 150 days. Graham says, what if proper investment had been put into hydrogen-powered technology? Yeah, they could have done it quite well over here. Like, LPG fuel is pretty good and it runs very clean as well. Yes, it's a fossil fuel, but the emissions from LPG are basically zero. It's very, very, very low emissions and it actually runs pretty well, around about 80 to 90% of the octane rating of traditional gas. So I had a BMW 325i Cabriolet and I had that converted because it was obviously drinking quite a lot of fuel, 6-cylinder engine. I was doing a lot of motorway driving, so I got it converted to LPG and it was great. I was doing best part of, like, I think it was 25 quid for about 350 miles travel, I think.
But then it wouldn't make any sense nowadays, would it?
Yeah, now it probably wouldn't
What
make
was it
sense.
before you had it converted?
At the time then, fuel was £1.10
How
a litre.
much was the tank?
Don't know, but I'm telling them how much that it was for the gas, so that makes sense. Like,
Yeah, but
the
if you
fuel.
said what it cost to drive it, a tank full
Well,
petrol,
it was double.
that?
Basically, a tank of
Be-
a tank of petrol would cost me about 70 quid, but would get about 2.5 times what the LPG tank got, because I got a smaller one because it fit into the spare wheel tyre, spare wheel well. So I think it was about 25 quid for the LPG or 70 quid for the petrol, and I would fill up the petrol every 3 days, and I'd do the LPG every 2.5 to 3 days. So it was basically kind of just under half the price.
I didn't think you filled petrol that often.
It's about 3 days, yeah.
Petrol.
Yeah, I think it was 2 to 2.5 on LPG and 3 on petrol, because the petrol would last quite a bit longer.
Because it only used
Comparatively.
to use petrol to start up, really, didn't it?
Yeah. Go away, Dave. Bless him, he's lovely. Miles per gallon I'm not too sure. The car itself, I think, did about, I think it was getting towards 35 miles to the gallon on average. I don't really remember that well. I'm sure when I got the diesel one, it went up to like 50 to 60. Maybe it was 30. Might have been 30. 30 miles to the gallon, roughly, on either petrol or LPG. There wasn't really a great deal between them. And because it was mostly motorway miles, it was kind of, there wasn't really much strain on the engine. I didn't give it an absolute hammering. But yeah, it was about 50p a litre, I think, for gas. And petrol was about £1. Maybe £1.20. So yeah, it was pretty good value. Good stuff. Wayne Taylor says LPG cars everywhere here. Yeah, I really liked it. It was great. It was a little bit inconvenient trying to find servicing because you use LPG as a bi-fuel. So the car starts with petrol until it gets warmed up, and then the heat from the engine warms up the water jacket around the LPG to kind of basically defrost it so it could come through, and then as it gets defrosted it turns from a liquid into a gas and then can go into the combustion cycle. Firefang says, Mike, you buy used hardware? Yeah, definitely. I buy any hardware. New, used, broken, you name it, I'll buy it all. Mark Berry says, the UK government used to give you a grant to convert to LPG. They stopped it in the end. Yeah, sucks.
It wasn't too bad, was it? It was like 1,500, I think, to convert it.
Yeah.
And that was paid back in about 3 months.
Yeah, I made back the money in fuel alone on the conversion in, I would say, it was somewhere between 3 to 5 months.
But
I was driving to Cardiff every day, so it's like 100 miles a day. 50 miles there, 50 miles back.
Giving you miles this week on this stream.
Yeah.
Was it 50? It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's about that. That's about the only one I can remember accurately, because I'm sure like Cardiff, I think, was 45 miles, but then it was like 5 miles like from here to the ring road, and then from the end of the motorway to the studio. Firefang says, Mike, what is the best platform to buy used? 100% AM4. I wouldn't buy an AM5 platform used because the pins on the LGA socket are way too delicate. So I would unless I could actually try it and use it and make sure it was all okay, I would not entertain buying a used AM5 board. Period. But AM4, you can't go too far wrong with AM4. Take the processor out, you look at the pins, are they straight? Yep, straight-ish. That'll do. Plonk straight into AM4 board. And also, being the time AM4 is pretty cheap, so even if you do buy a board which is a bit duff, like you're probably not going to be paying a lot for it anyway, because a new B550 board, like a B550 Gaming Plus, you're looking at 100 quid. So a used board is going to cost you, what, 50, 60? So it's not like you're tying up a ton of money. Whereas with LGA, can't even remember what it is now, 1851 for AM5, most boards are around about 150 to 200 quid. So secondhand, you're going to be paying kind of like 100 to 150. So you're putting a lot more money into the pot should anything go wrong, especially if you're buying used, because generally you're not going to get any guarantee or warranty with it. So yeah, for me, used wise, AM4 all day long. I probably wouldn't consider anything else unless it was so cheap that you kind of had to take a gamble on it. If there was like a B650 board that came up for like, I don't know, 70, 80 quid, it'd be like, that's pretty tempting. But yeah, I think AM4 is the way to go. Rasher says, what music do you like? I don't know really. I used to like listening to music because I drive into work and stuff. I used to listen to the radio all the time. But I don't really like, I don't think I like any of the modern music because I don't really hear it. If I had a genre as such, I would probably be the 80s. 80s stroke 90s stroke 2000s. Probably aiming more towards the 80s, I would suspect. If I had to choose something to listen to, it would probably be an 80s station. In terms of a genre in the 80s, it's going to probably be pop, maybe light rock. I used to enjoy rap, hip hop, pretty much a bit of anything really. I think the 80s was a pretty cool era musically. But then every generation says that about their kind of childhood stroke teen era, don't they? Markovsky says a used motherboard of any kind is a bit of a chance taken. It is, but I think arguably with any LGA boards, the pins are so delicate. And let's face it, most PC enthusiasts, we're cack-handed fools, aren't we? It is really easy to get damaged. Unless it's packaged up well in transit and in the original box and you've got the cover on and all sorts. There's just so many things that can go wrong. At least with an good old AM4 board, like even if you snap a pin off, you can probably solder one on or something, you know what I mean? Whereas you try soldering a new pin on an LGA board, you got more chance of being the next Prime Minister. Not a chance in hell. James Messina says, do you think you can beat Ugly Bob in a rap battle? If Ugly Bob made a reappearance and actually spoke, then yeah, I think I would. No one would understand his accent, so I'd win.
I like his accent. I quite like Newcastle. Have a nice D.
Phil's Todd. Phil Stodd, how you doing? Not doing too bad at all. Tony Beckett likes a bit of Depeche Mode. Yeah, Personal Jesus, that's a great song. That's one of my favourites. When I was in my kind of growing up years, i.e. like pre-teen, and probably early teens as well, I was just like I live with my mum, single parent deal, just a single child as well, so I lived in this like little flat, and there was like a similar sort of deal with the people upstairs, like a 2-story flat, a maisonette I think they call it. And
it's a flat with an upstairs.
Yeah, it's.
But you didn't have stairs in it. This was a flat.
All right, it's 2 flats on top of each one flat on top of another. It's 2 bungalows stacked.
2 houses. There's a house made into flats kind of thing, but purpose built.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the guy upstairs was a little bit older than me, about 5 years older than me maybe, possibly slightly more than that, I'm not sure. So he was well into his music era. When I was like about 10 or so, he was like in his teens. So he was getting into all the 80s music and stuff. So I remember basically most weekends, weirdly the summers felt longer and hotter back then, but apparently they weren't, so clearly I was wrong. But yeah, you'd have your windows open in the summer because it was like baking hot, and all I would hear from upstairs was the records keep on like getting to the end of Depeche Mode. You'd play like Personal Jesus and all that kind of stuff. Just play it over and over, and I got to the point where I actually didn't like it because I'd heard it so much, or because like it was my neighbours. I was like, oh, I don't want to listen to that. I want to listen to LL Cool J, or I don't know, whatever it was. I listened to Ice Cube or something. You know, Ice T. I think I was listening to a lot back then. Yeah, some of that stuff, and it's like I was quite into rap scene at that time and hip hop, and he was playing all this Depeche Mode and stuff, and it's like, but yeah. Whenever I hear that song, I always think of that moment. Yeah, Personal Jesus is epic. It is. Got to go from my head now. Grizz says Linus has repaired M4 pins with relatively good results. Yeah, it's not impossible. If you've got a relatively steady hand and the right tools, you can put a new pin on an AM4 with reasonable success. RLG says the problem with AM4 is under the socket cover, the V-shaped pin contacts get opened to U-shape and bad contact. I've never had, well, I may have had that happen. I've been relatively lucky with AM4 boards, although I still have got here the X570 Tough Gaming Wi-Fi, which I do need to get fixed because it kind of has power, but it won't do anything. So yeah, I need to have a look at that. Bruno RNC says 5070 being announced this month, being announced on Monday. That will be announced at CES on Monday at the NVIDIA keynote speech. Should be on sale on the, I think it's going to be the 21st of this month, possibly. I know either the 5080 should be launched on January 21st. Whether or not the 70 class series will be as well, I don't know. If I had to hedge bets, I would say the initial launch will be the 5080, possibly a 5070 Ti, and possibly a 5070. Those will all be announced. Possibly they'll announce the 5090 as well. And then in terms of release, I think January 21st will be the 5080 and possibly the 5070 Ti. The 5070, I would guess, will be a week later. And I think the 5090 will be towards the middle of February, if I had to guess. Definitely will be a staggered launch. They won't all be out on the 21st. I would be amazed if they were. Because obviously, when a graphics card comes out, what's the first thing that happens? Reviews. So they know that it's hard work for obviously all the channels to do reviews on day one. So they're not going to have multiple cards. They might have two, but one is more likely. If we look at the 4070 launch, we had the 4080 come out, then the 4070 Ti, then the 4070, and then the 60s come out a little bit later. So there was a more staggered launch. And I would expect to see the same now, although I do feel that there will be two launched at the same time. Whether it's the Ti and the 4070 Ti and, the 5070 Ti and the 5070, I don't know why, but I get some feeling that they'll both be released at the same time. And I'm pretty sure the 5070 is going to be a 12 gig card and the 5070 Ti will be a 16 gig card, as it is at this current generation. I think those will be the same. Who knows? It's going to be expensive. Firephone says, Mike, did someone recognise you live from YouTube? Yes. Funny enough, it was a neighbour. So I don't know if they recognised me or not, but one of our neighbours, I was out, I think I was like putting the dustbin out or the recycling or something, and someone that I've never spoken to in our street ever, other than kind of like little wave or something as you go past or something, just to acknowledge them. Never spoken to them before in my life, and walked up to me. He said, "Oh, Mike, glad I caught you. Can I have a word?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, yeah. What's up?" He's like, "Oh, I watched some of your videos. I've got this," and he started going on to this spiel about his computer and the problems he's been having, and the various videos of ours that he's watched to try and fix his PC. And it's like, well, that's kind of cool and kind of weird at the same time. So it's like a neighbour that you've never ever spoken to before, I've spoken to in a video for like probably half an hour to an hour, but yet never spoken to in real life. It's really weird. So yeah, he said, "I watched your videos," and I guess, well, I don't know if he knew my name anyway, but I literally walk around outside with a Mike's Unboxing jumper or coat or hat. So it wouldn't have been like a weird thing like, "How do you know my name?" Because it's kind of plastered all over me. But yeah, it was kind of, that was fun. Markovsky said, "Did he ask you to put his bin out?" No, but I was tempted to ask him to take mine because I had a bad back at the time. I should have asked to sign his bin.
It wasn't the bins. It was you doing my car.
What was I doing? Oh, jump starting it. Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, puncture, wasn't it, in the tyre? That was it. Got it. Yeah, that was it.
My memory's terrible.
I know. I've got so many things going around in my tiny little brain. James Miscellaneous says, "You just did it for me. Potential for 48 gig, 5090, they're so brash. Hey Mike, 9 AM Vegas time is 5 PM UK time. How you doing, Sky? And Tina, hopefully you had a good New Year, all that stuff."
All night, I think.
I didn't see him before. My apologies. Arnold G says, net lean, not sure what that means. I'm in your Discord, but nah, old people don't use Discord much. We got loads of old people on our Discord, me included. I am one of them.
We have an 81-year-old.
We have an 81-year-old.
He's, I think, the eldest.
I think he is the eldest, yeah.
Or the one that says,
or at least admits he's the eldest.
yeah.
Arnold Albert says, greetings all, how you doing? Skystalker says, I am older, I use Discord a lot.
But not older than 81.
Panagotius says, now I connect to your channel on Discord. Now. Nice one.
And if anyone else wants to join?
Yeah, if anyone else wants to join in, you're more than welcome to. So, Dutch Jan, 55. Vialis, 62. Tony Beckett says, I feel like an 81-year-old. Aletta says, I'm ancient and I use Discord. There you go. Fred V, 58. Arnold G's 49, young whippersnapper. Firefang says, what is old? 40 plus. I don't know. Every time I get older, the that bar moves. Charles Ballard says, I'm 58 as of last September. Aletta's so old she can remember when dirt was clean and shiny. Robert's 60 this month. Oh, happy birthday for this month. Phil Stodd, 71 young. Awesome. Tough Enough's 50. That's a great age to be. Mark Berry says, I'm only 56. Audrey Dew says, I have the body of an 80-year-old, or at least it feels like it. Arnold G says, my daughter says her friends' dads don't use Discord. Simps. Skystalker says, geez, a lot of 50s in here. Well, you've got to be the only ones who can stay up this late on a Saturday night and not be out in the pub. Markovsky says, I can fix you up, Tony. I've run an elderly escort agency, lol. Oh dear, Markovsky, your inbox is just going to get absolutely firebombed now. Anthony Silva says, hey Mike, my brother and I just built a PC for our first time. Awesome stuff, well done. Congrats. It's booting up but no display. Oh, take those congrats away. They ain't deserved quite yet. So just watched your video on that and hoping it works. Yeah, to be honest with you, if your system doesn't boot, if you watch that video we did on system not booting, it gives you loads of really good pointers. Normally it's like one of maybe three main things. One, a faulty piece of hardware. It happens. Second one, GPU not plugged in fully. Very common. And third is like just a configuration issue, which generally is going to be easily fixed with either a BIOS update or just swapping some parts out. But yeah, hopefully you should be on your way. And hopefully you will get your congratulations when it actually boots.
Or Discord if you get stuck.
Yeah, or join our Discord if you get stuck with it. I'll put the link in the chat. Nick Byron says, I feel like a 25-year-old blonde, but body not willing. Oh dear. Right, okay. I think that'd be the last, 5-minute warning. I think I'm running out of steam now, and I just realised it is coming up to 20 past 11. I've got to be up early in the morning to get into work. I say early, 8:30. It's early for me.
12 o'clock today, wasn't it?
Ooh. Yeah. Today I woke up about 9 o'clock, went for a pee, decided it was way too cold, got back in bed, and then finally got up out of the shower and done, ready for facing the day about 12 o'clock. I'm not very well. I've got to rest and recuperate to fully recharge my battery. I used to have a nickel metal hydrate, but now I think I'm running on alkaline, so I've got to take it a bit steady. Nick Barnes says, don't forget to dust your wellies off, Mike. I have dusted off my DeWalt boots. They'll be going. I'll be getting those on the go tomorrow.
Get your snow chains on.
The last time it was raining, I got absolutely soaked because of my trainers. They've got the water resistance of a tissue. And I put my foot anywhere near fluids and it's like, they got trench foot for the rest of the day. So, yes. So yeah, I will be wearing my my boots to work tomorrow. Is the snow gone yet? Is it all?
It's raining.
Sounds like it's raining now.
You don't want to go out in the rain, do you, Bob?
Mark Berry says, Mike, you are a night owl, lol. I am. I actually, funny actually, I got into, not an argument, but I kind of said something to Gamers Nexus. He was doing a video with Jay's 2 Cents about their benchmarking and how they go through their routines, and they're saying like, Gamers Nexus, they do it in like 3 stages. So like Mike will take the early shift, the other guy, I can't remember his name, takes the middle shift, and then Steve will take the worst shift, the night shift. But I remember years ago watching Gamers Nexus and Steve saying that he liked doing the night shift because he didn't like getting up in the morning. So I didn't call him out on it, but I've just put there, I thought you said you liked doing the late shift because, no, I said to somebody else, I think Steve said he liked doing the horrible shift because it suited him. So he's not being a hero, he's just doing the shift that he wants to do, which nobody else wants to. So it's not heroic, it's just it suits him. And he did actually say on a previous video that that was the case. So I kind of mentioned that, and then he actually replied in Jay's 2 Cents comments to me saying, thanks for watching, you must be like a really old viewer, because you're absolutely right, I did say that years ago, but I've actually changed and now I prefer to do early shifts. So I am doing the kind of the hero work. So it's like, okay, fair enough. Thought I'd tell you that little story. Ira Wolfman says, did you hear the new dam in China is slowing the rotation of the planet? And they placed it on the border with India where loads of earthquakes are common. Sounds like a great idea. We do have a habit of doing things like this, don't we? Patrick, Tough Enough says, thank you, Patrick. That's the name I was looking. Scott Gordon says, Steve is in a way a hero. He advocates for the customer. He does, actually, you're right. Nick Barr says, thanks, Mike and Kath, for boosting Saturday night enjoyment. Stay warm and safe. Well, I'll definitely try and do one of those at least. I'll be staying safe tomorrow, possibly. But with the DeWalt safety boots on, yes. Night Valley, and congratulations on winning the AIO. It's literally here. Here. So, weather determining factor, although it looks like Monday's now going to be, oh, snow now, Monday?
Not on my phone.
Snow. That's updated. That wasn't there before, was it?
You don't want to believe everything you see.
I do believe everything that I see with my eyes.
With your eyes, yeah. Not with AI.
Right. Tony says, good night from Miami. Oh, you're in Miami? Tony, you're my new best friend. I love Miami. I think Miami is a wonderful place. Florida, Miami. Places I definitely want to visit. Anyway. Yeah, I think that is going to pretty much wrap things up. It is getting late here and I do have to go to work. 22.1 degrees Celsius in the studio at the moment with a 55% humidity, which is kind of nice. Actually it feels quite nice, and we've not had the heating on, other than the wood burner, which is not doing bugger all here. Now in Poland, it's snowing and they're having minus 50°C. Jeeps. Right. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap things up. If you haven't already, smash the like button. If you want to see more content like this on a daily basis, maybe consider hitting subscribe and the chime notification. That way you'll be notified of future video releases. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To. And hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. And let us hope that CES brings us lots of nice things on Monday. Well, I'm not sure what time it is. Might try and get in some sort of stream, like a reaction stream or something, or a reaction video. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. Anyway, have a fantastic weekend and be good. Mind the snow if you're in cold places. If you're in warm places, I envy you immensely. Anyway, thanks for watching. Have a great weekend and we'll see you next week. Cheers. Say bye, Kath.
Bye.
Bye. That didn't work.